Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 55 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. This week we're covering Amphibia Season 3, Episode 17, All In. I'm your host, the Maticon, and joining me today we have Impact,
Yo, what's good, everybody?
Sunsfury,
Hey, it's time.
Pickle,
Hey.
and Pixels.
What's up, everybody?
Okay, so starting, we're going to give. I'm going to clip in whoever was online last night when the episode premiered. Everyone got 3 minutes to just gush about the episode. The guys who are new here tonight, not new, who came here tonight, get their 3 minute thoughts as well. Each of you is going to have up to 3 minutes to just vent or talk or whatever. I know we just watched the episode less than an hour ago, so it's totally fine if you're just a mess because I am. So I guess first up we have Rook. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Thumb. So, like Thumb said, we're less than an hour before this. We just finished watching this episode, and yeah, you're just gonna hear our older episode, and it's really setting into me that this show is almost over. It's 1 week left, and All In went all in on everything it needed to do. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about. There's so much I love about this episode. So I think, first of all, the animation's like stellar as ever. There's so many characters that fully fully resolve their arcs and stuff. And then you have Marcy's mindscape, and then you have Sasha and then Marcy finally reconciling together. Then you have Sprig like contemplating about being separated from man forever. Then you have the Boon Choice coming back. You have Mr. X. You have Mr. X like joining forces. You have so many characters like joining in for the final invasion. You have Andrias challenging Anne for a 1-to-1. You have a lot of major events happening. Just so, yeah, dude, this episode, yeah, it blew me away. I think personally, I know that there's a lot of rush stuff in it, but personally, I think that this episode, looking back on it, I think it's a 10 out of 10 for me personally, and it's just a prime example of why. It's just a prime example of why a lot of people love this show. The humor was also on point, by the way. Something Amphibia never shies away from, no matter how epic and grandiose. This show's humor is always on point, and I noticed that a lot in this episode. You have Robo playing a major part in this episode. You have Leif's letter. Just there's so much stuff that needs to be covered, but I can't put it cohesively into one thing because we just got done watching it, so I can't thoroughly analyze what's happening. But I just want to gush over how much I love this episode and how much everything is coming into place. Oh, and then you have the moon stuff at the end, because at the ending we're gonna finally see the final conflict resolution. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but the hardest thing is gonna be the real finale. It's not gonna be an epilogue because the moon and the prophecy is finally gonna be resolved. The core is still out there, but all the conflicts between the girls are resolved now. And yeah, it's just unbelievable to me that this show's ending in a week from now. It's been such a long journey, but it's finally gonna be wrapping up. And I'm just super excited for the hardest thing, and I love this show. And I can't wait for all this stuff. And credit to Matt and the crew. Great job, guys.
All right. Thank you, Rook. Up next we have PC. Go ahead.
All right. I mean, I'll admit I'm not going to say a whole lot that people haven't already said or think or have thought, but yeah, no, this episode was fantastic. I'm not sure I can give it the 10 out of 10 that Rook did, mainly just because, and I've talked about this, not because I disliked the episode, but simply because the episode isn't finished yet, so I don't really feel like I can judge it as a whole. That being said, like, regardless of the cliffhanger and the loose ends of the core and the moon and all that, still an absolutely stellar episode with some just jaw-dropping animation. I think this is probably the best animation that Amphibia has ever gotten. I'll be honest, it's really just it really is just something to see all these threads coming together, from the Plantars doing the hunting dance to to Andrias just kind of accepting his fate. I just have so much that I want to talk about, and I can't really put into words, but I just want to thank, like, Matt and the crew for putting so much goddamn effort into this show. Like, holy crap. You could feel the blood, sweat, and tears going into this. And I also really like the thematic setups of accepting change and and you'll talk about this, I'm sure, in the podcast proper, I'm sure. But you can really just see the setups for whether or not Anne and her friends will, fight to change Amphibia for the better, or leave it to its fate. I hesitate to call this a finale because it's not the end. But that being said, just a fantastic setup to the true finale of not only season 3 but of the show as a whole. And that's kind of all I have to say without getting way too deep into it for the time I have.
All right, thank you, PC. Up next,
I don't even know where to start.
go ahead, Pickle.
My gosh. Well, I'm gonna just piggyback off of PC here. This animation, favorite part of it visually has always been the boarding and the framing of all the scenes. And just it really shines through here how good some of these shots were visually. The animation when Anne was like properly beating up Andrias, the music and the transition between Anne fighting and then to Sasha fighting, and then Darcy getting their proper supervillain death thing, with all the camera spinning around them, and it's just the list goes on. The scene with Grime and then the black and red. I could gush about it for much longer, but I'm going to use my time for something else. So I also want to say, feel like this feels like the ending. This really feels like a finale. They did a great job of making this feel grand and incredible. And honest, while I was watching it, I got sucked in. I kind of forgot that this wasn't the end of this end of the show proper, and the whole thing at the very end kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, "Oh right, there's another episode next week." Just wow, this was so good. I don't hesitate to give it a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I mean, I know I'm biased to this show, but this was just incredible. You can really tell how much effort was put into this. And that's all from me.
All right, thank you, Pickle. Up next, we have Pixels. Are you ready? All right.
I'll have to say this first. Matt Brawley, thank you for giving us a really fantastic show that we haven't gotten in quite some time. And All In is probably one of the main reasons why Amphibia is probably one of my favorite shows to watch. There's a lot of callbacks to this episode in a span of 48 minutes. A lot of shock and awe, to be honest. A lot of callbacks to past episodes. Especially with the Plantars. It's probably one of my favorite parts. There was a lot of comedic timing too, but there wasn't that much comedic stuff too, which I'm okay with. The fight scenes and the animation side was really, really good, and it was like shock and awe with everything. I will say that I kind of agree with what they said before. It's not a 10 out of 10, but I will give it a 9, just because there's like some stuff that's been left out, and it's really crazy that it's like this is not the last episode. The hardest thing is, so we have to get ready for that and like understand that this is this is the actual ending of the episode. It's like I'm still trying to wrap my mind around a lot of stuff. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Pixels. Lemur, you ready?
Hello. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
yes.
3 minutes.
All right. So, I don't really have anything else, like, I guess, substantial to say because pretty much everybody has said it. But yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback. I'm just gonna piggyback the opinions here and say that All In is definitely one of those episodes. It's definitely one of the best episodes of the show. Like, I'm a little bit surprised that this isn't the actual finale because I actually thought it is, and the hardest thing would be the epilogue. I thought pretty much all the plot threads will be wrapped up here, but now I realize that like it's fine. Like the hardest thing, like I mean, even then, like even if there is some plot threads that aren't solved, pretty much all of the character arcs in the show have been finally wrapped up with a neat bow. I love the scale of this episode. I love the animation, which is done by the same dude who worked in Rise of TMNT and Monkey Kid, which if you which if you've seen are fantastically animated shows. All again the writing as well. Writing has been the absolute best in my opinion. Like in Amphibia. Oh, but only because of the fact that it ended the cliffhanger where I can't say it is the best. But I again, like I said, all the character arcs in this in the show have been really wrapped up in the best way possible. Especially Sasha and Marcy's, which I didn't expect at all. There are really good action, some really shocking moments, and yeah, like I really have nothing else to say. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up a bit here. Yeah, I got nothing else to say. All In is probably the quintessential Amphibia episode. It's almost perfection, and I can't wait for the finale, even if it is the actual finale of the show. And I'm gonna miss the show soon. I'm gonna miss the show once it ends. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
All right, thank you, Lemur. So I think everyone here has gotten a chance to talk. I think I think everyone who wants to talk has got a chance, and then tomorrow I'll cut this right into the episode breakdown. But thanks, guys, for giving your general thoughts. And oh wait, myself. Let me get my timer out.
Bruh,
Okay,
come on.
yeah, this
Oh my
episode
gosh.
was crazy.
Yeah.
So like the planner stuff, like you guys know how much I like After the Rain, and so having these herons show up and the planners are pretty much like have PTSD about it, and it's really interesting to see them overcome that, and how Hop Hop had to like we see Hop Hop like was like ran back to Wartwood and like fought back, and that stuff was great. Poly engineering skills, that was great. Sprig with the letter, like him and Pink, like Sprig is at the center of every single theme and conflict in this show for the better, and like he's the conduit. He's the one who like he links everything together, and Yeah, and so the flashback, I thought that would be part of the mindscape, but it wasn't. It was something that actually happened the day before, and shows you how troubled these kids were. And luckily, they were in a private school, and they got off like. I mean, their punishment was pretty like light, but that's fine. Um, yeah, and I think Matt in some interviews talked about like self love being like the kind of like the under the surface theme throughout the show, and here it kind of like comes to the surface though, and I still really like that. And all the Andrias stuff, like Keith David, holy, like his delivery when he like holds the letter, and like even when Sprig like mentions Leif's name, like you see like the mech just like freeze up. And okay, I'm almost out of time. Yeah, Grime losing an arm, holy shit. They got away with that on TV. Marcy Mindscape did everything he needed to do. It was good. It was nice to see Marcy escape on her own. That's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to see. I'm glad that happened. Yeah, the core is still like walking around. It has one more trick left, especially now that we're back in Amphibia, and we'll see what happens next. And those are my thoughts.
Alright, so when do I even begin? Like, this episode had a lot going for it. I could definitely say that. It was I will say I wouldn't say it's like the best. I know that's a very controversial thing for the people in the server and all, but like it was very good. I will say that it was very good. It gave us more of the Herons thing. I thought that it's a pretty weird coincidence how they were just the same Herons, right? But then Hop Up explained how they were more significant than what we had thought, and I thought that was alright. Pretty fine. The whole PTSD thing, I was fine with it with HP and Polly. I mean Sprig, but for Polly it was a bit for me. But it was still fine. It was still fine. As for the whole thing with Grime getting his you know, getting his arm cut off, there was a struggle. There was definitely a struggle with Sasha getting her back striked as well with the injury. There was definitely a struggle for both of them, but for Grimes specifically, I definitely thought that it needed more time since with him just laying down there and kicking the sword, that was all right. But then he went like, "Oh, let's go in for this hug." That was very very cool. That's that's not really the best way to go after what we just witnessed, right? And then let's go to the ending of the episode where we get to see the moon. I like the setup for when Sprig has to accept that Anne has to like leave. But when it comes to deflecting the moon and all, I'm not sure how they're gonna handle that. And there's also the thing with the core and the spider like a mechanic sort of thing. And Pickle, do you remember Pickle Thumb? Yeah, he talked about a theory of Anne being corrupted by the powers, and with the core just running around, and it could probably go to Anne. That is definitely it's coming to be more possible, I believe. It's not a problem, but yeah. Again, what do you say? All right. I'm good. I'm good now.
Starting with Impact, you have 3 minutes to talk about All In. Go ahead.
Okay, so Amphibia's finales are always this thing where the show just decides to just break all the rules and do whatever the hell it wants. And it's so much fun when they just get to go all out. And All In is just that episode. It's just 48 minutes of just crazy bullcrap. We get like 2 amazing fights with Anne and Andrias, Sasha, Darcy, and those are just, they're beautiful. They're amazing. And it always takes me a little bit to kind of take in how amazing the show can be when it just has no like restraints. You know, like Amphibia can still be a comedy and can still be really funny, and that's great. You know, I love that part of the show. And you know, there's always more to it than just these big, epic, awesome moments. But I can't act like these aren't the coolest parts of the damn show. And All In just keeps going with it. The first half is pretty simple, but like once we get to the second half, which is 22 minutes of it, unlike True Colors, which is 12, we had 22 minutes of just nonstop fighting, crazy bullcrap, amazing climaxes for our characters. This episode had it all. And honest to God, I think this was better than True Colors. I think this is my favorite episode of the whole show. I love it. There's so much to analyze. There's so much to go for. And God damn, this episode was good. All In is like SS tier for Amphibia episodes. I love this one. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And that's it. Those are my thoughts.
All right, thank you, Impact. Sunsfury, you have 3 minutes just to gush about All In. Go ahead.
I think I'm gonna do this a bit more summarily than Impact because I think I can sum up my opinion on All In about 5 words, and they are yes, 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 and yes. Because gosh, that was a spectacular episode, and it was very fun. And honestly, I think it was even better the second time watching it through.
Okay, thank you, Sunsfury. I thought you'd use that time up just to. Is there anything else you can go ahead? You can go wild. I don't mind. You've earned
Oh
it.
no, we save the going wild for later on. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. So we're just gonna go right into the episode. Like pull up the credits. Directed by Joe Johnson, Jen Strickland, and Roxanne Cole. These are all 3 directors, I believe. I know Kyler Spears was a co-director on for a little bit this season. Written by Michelle Cavan, Gloria Shen, and Geneva Mai. Storyboards by Danny Ducker, Inbal Breda, Alex Swanson, Eddie West, Kazi Zwart, and Hannah Ayobi. And Hannah Ayobi is returning from season 1. We also had guest animator Tom Barkle. Also worked on Rise of the TMNT, Lego Monkey Kid. And also he has a couple of his own. He's animated some of his own Dragon Ball Z stuff, and it was pretty cool. So getting into the episode, we have. It starts off with the flashback, and I know like a lot of us here kind of speculate with all the flashing lights that maybe this was just maybe this was something that was happening in Marcy's mind, but no, this was a real. This actually takes place the day before Anne's birthday. We get a special intro where it's not actually the regular title card. It's just the pan. It's a shot of LA or St. James School. It's a pan down shot with the Amphibia logo, and the credits of the episode show up while the scene is happening. Yeah, I believe like Sasha hijacks the PA system. They start playing music, and they're just like they start playing K-pop music and unleashing a bunch of dogs that were in a room, and eventually the principal takes them in. And I guess it's just really interesting how like the principal doesn't really. The punishment isn't too severe. I don't know, private schools, I guess, but
That's the exact opposite. Private schools would like. Thank God this is fiction, because like you can tell, because private schools would like. As someone who was in a private school, nah, that would never happen.
I have no idea, because like I was a public school guy, but I know like in different countries maybe it's like a different kind of thing. Yeah.
Like it definitely depends on the school completely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it depends on where you live too, but like most private schools, at least where I live, hell no, you wouldn't be allowed to get away with that. But it is fiction, so I'll let it slide.
Yeah, so like apparently the principal, Mrs. Murphy, like compliments like Sasha's like leadership qualities. Like cuz each of the girls are like getting a talk with the principal. Marcy apparently had Marcy was complimented for like being able to hack into the PA system to play like that. I think it was Blackpink. That's the name of the K-pop band. Uh, what else? Yeah, and then Anne shows up. Like Anne goes in the principal's office, and she pretty much just like is much less lenient with her because Anne doesn't have the same kind of skills that Sasha and Marcy have, and brings up like Anne has this like huge like this huge folder for just stuff from her, I guess, and that's her record. Um, yeah, and then she like pretty much assigns Anne to write an essay that Marcy and Sasha don't have to write, and I just think it's really it's just I wish we got this a little like I wish we got this like earlier. Not because not it's not a bad thing at all, but just like the who am I thing, like that kind of question for Anne. I wish like we as the audience got to like I wish we just got to know that sooner, but that's not really a complaint. That's just me like wanting more.
I feel like that's a question that the show's been kind of asking, but not like as directly as it does here. This episode does this a lot, where it kind of like themes that were kind of always in the show or kind of like just said out loud here. So it's like I feel like this was always a thing with Ange, where she didn't really like she just kind of followed Sasha around all the time or like let things happen to her because she didn't really know who she was or how much potential she had in the first place. So I think it was just all in being like, yo, here's the theme of the whole show, and let's just tell you right now. I would have liked if it was a little sooner, but I think it works for me either way, honestly. So
I
Yeah,
thought it
like
was a little less direct. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that Anne is like she had like no voice in the group. She kind of just was more of the follower rather than the leader, just hanging out with her friends, and I kind of got a pinpoint focus on her throughout all in. So
And there's
yes,
I feel like it might have been less of a direct theme. I mean, it's definitely a theme of the show and learning more about herself. But I feel like it's less about her being like not knowing and more about like her self-esteem wasn't as she didn't do what she wanted. She was more like who am I was more about, she hadn't done what she wanted. She hadn't expressed herself as herself. She'd just been following Sasha and Marcy, and her who am I was more about like her doing what she wanted to do and being her own person.
and it seems like the principal is like fully aware that she's just like kind of tagging along, but she kind of doesn't really act on that other than just pointing it out for Anne.
Well, I mean, it's not really her place to do other to push Anne in a certain direction other than, hey, you need to figure this part of your life out. It's gonna be something you have to do. And just offering a kind of forceful nudge towards figuring it all out with the essay.
And what else do you guys want to talk about for the flashback?
So I kind of like that we get Anne's like this is kind of Anne's perspective flashback because I would argue that Reunion's flashback sequence was Sasha's perspective of Anne's birthday. Now, and then there's the True Colors one, which is very clearly Marcy's perspective of the same day. And in a kind of in some way we kind of come full circle and we get Anne's perspective and Anne's personal thoughts on the days coming up leading up to, well, the beginning of the show, which helps kind of set the theme of this episode being a tie-off to a lot of Anne's growth personally.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like I really hope we get that like last flashback with the moments before actually opening the box, like at least the conversation between them, because I thought it was all the flashbacks we got for these like finales have been like the day of, and this one decides to go back, like decides to like turn back the clock a little bit more. But granted, this isn't actually like this isn't the finale. This is like the semi finale.
Yeah, okay. It's weird this not being the finale. Like, what's going on? Isn't this supposed to be all finale material? What's going on here?
It's part one of the finale. This is the finale.
God, because we all thought that the hardest thing would be like an epilogue episode, like the aftermath of what happened, but nope, the ending kind of took us for a swing there, and I really appreciate it for that. And it's like I got shocked myself, like what? Oh my god!
I kind of forgot about the whole moon thing, and like while I was watching the episode, and then I was like, oh right, this isn't over yet.
Yeah, it's like this finale really is a lot of the invasion stuff, and a lot of the surprisingly involves like very little of the gem stuff. It's mostly about like the conflict between like the Empire versus the Resistance and Earth as well.
Yeah, this was definitely the more action pack oriented part of it. We didn't get to the magical stuff yet, which is funny because like I feel like that's the structure of, well, a little bit. It's kind of like the structure of how we've done with the seasons as a whole. Like season 3 gave us a lot more of like the lore and magical stuff for Amphibia, and I guess season 2 with that as well kind of gave us more about like Andrias and the robots and stuff like that. We kind of got introduced to those, and it's nice that the second act of the finale also brings those back. It brings back a lot of season 2 elements this episode, actually. So it's fitting that the second act would follow season 2's kind of formula a little bit. But yeah.
So before I go into the, I guess, present day of this episode, does anyone want to add anything else to the flashback?
I guess one thing one thing I will say, Marcy's a monster. Like she just grabs a puppy and just throws it across the hall. Like
you need that dog.
She was a monster before Darcy. I'm just saying. Crazy.
Yeah, she kind of just like chucks it. Like
you really did.
And why did that school have like a bunch of like dogs in the
like they probably live near a dog shelter, I guess.
Because it's funny and they're a private school.
And it's California, so I'm not surprised.
I'm assuming that the dogs were set up. I'm just gonna say this. Maybe, just maybe, Sasha and Marcy brought the dogs there. Just a thought.
Maybe.
Did they like rob a pet store or something? What were they up to?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they robbed a pet store.
I mean, they robbed to get the music box. I mean, shoot. They've probably done crazier stuff. Honestly.
But I do kind of like the gentle reminder that yes, it was both Marcy and Sasha who both kind of pushed Anne to do the prank.
Yeah, the show loves like every time one of the girls seems a little bit like more like I know you guys understand my intent, but when I say innocent, I don't actually mean like, oh, like they did nothing wrong. But it's like every time there's like a slight imbalance, it's like the episode shifts it back over again. Like last week, people were like, "Oh, like Sasha and Anne didn't watch the movie with Marcy," and then like this week it's like Sasha and Marcy convinced Anne to like do this prank. It's a constantly shifting dynamic, and that's why we love it.
The important thing to remember when it comes to them is that they all had a part to play in their friendship, and it's not fair to victimize any one of them, and it's also not fair to like villainize any one of them, I feel.
Right.
Preach.
Complicated.
Yep, damn right.
So I think we can go into the present day now. So like Anne, like we end off the flashback with that "Who am I?" on that line sheet of paper, and it cuts to Anne and the gang all chained up, and I believe they were originally going to get mind control collars, but they're just chained up in some cell with like those in like. Remember that scene in The Incredibles where the family is like has those like weird ball things?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
That was a great. That was really cool. There's a lot of Easter eggs and like callbacks and stuff in this episode, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, so they're all chained.
I also
Oh, go ahead.
I also like that in that transition we come back and we don't see Anne's eyes at the first. So she's got the hair covering it. We've got the shadow there instead, just kind of selling this because eyes are one of the big parts of any show and any way of conveying emotion, and showing everybody in a dark place in a oh no we're all stuck here, and not showing Anne's eyes for a moment really helps that transition of flashback to, well, no, all our protagonists are stuck in a cage.
Right, yeah, that's a great point. I'm looking at your notes as well. You wanted to bring that up too, and I like how they'll try and figure out a way out. Oh, Grime also just does a quick tries adding more force. Of course, it doesn't work. And right when Sprig says, Sprig always jinxes the situation where he's like, "Don't worry, we'll find a way out," and then you just hear Andrias like shouting from his castle, like, "Primates of Earth, we have arrived!" And I love how he just like throughout this episode just refers to like Earth, like he knows he knows we call ourselves humans, but he just like wants to like have that bit of like superiority by calling us monkeys.
Oh my god.
Andrias has always been great at trash talk.
So, shout out to Keith David. He really did a really good job, like always. But this specific episode, Keith David sold the hell out of this.
Yeah, we'll talk about him more later on because yeah, that's yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's freaking out the people of LA, talks about how there's no his plans to invade don't include just Earth. Earth is kind of like the stepping stone. This is like the beginner level for his empire. Remember, like Earth was technically the first world he had to conquer, and then after this, he wanted to use Earth to build up even more resources to start invading other worlds as well. Yeah, so he's freaking out the people of LA, and then Darcy drops down those herons, which later we will find out that they're the same ones from Prison Break and earlier before that as well, unfortunately for the planners. But yeah, the herons come in. They're outfitted with the mind control collars and a little bit of armor. But we also get a minor thing with that movie they watched in Civil War, Love Choice. There's a sequel poster where it's called Love Choice 2, More Love, More Choices. And there's like a new guy too, like a lizard guy, whatever. That's
I didn't even notice that.
oh, same. Wow, good
All
eye.
the movie posters are consistently incredible, just like random references, because like also back earlier the Suspicion Island too sus.
yeah, but don't worry, the the U.S. military is here to save the day, and
Good old military.
normally I don't like
Jeez,
I don't like punching down, but it's like
they tried.
looking at the subreddit, all these people who are like, "Oh, we can't wait for the U.S. military to wipe them out," and the birds, the birds just like use like a gust of wind from their wings to like send the missiles back, and all those
good to
tanks
know
get
that.
wrecked. But you know, it's
It's good to know that the Amphibia universe, the FBI is just as incompetent as the military. They just both suck at their jobs.
No, with the FBI, they have like they have better technology than military.
they have like at the very end, I think he calls up Mr. X, and yeah, luckily the FBI has more like more advanced, more S&P approved weaponry that they can show on screen.
No guns allowed, huh?
Bullets are bad. Lasers are fine.
Lasers are cool, really cool.
Yeah, and then we just get that brief shot of Mr. X's phone where he has like he has his
Mickey D's.
yeah Mickey D's and Terry. Like I'm guessing he's like talking with Terry now, boss, hubby, and mom. Mom's the first one, which that's a respect to him for being the first number there. And
Is that? I'm just sitting here going, is that like mum and dad Boonchoy, or is that something else completely? I have no idea.
I assumed it would be his own mom because
I'm
I thought
assuming it's his mom. Yeah.
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless the Boonchoys had their like a found family of their own while the planners are away.
The Boonchoys adopted Mr. X.
Well, Terry managed to get on it, which is probably really good for her.
Yeah, and then yeah, we just get that quick teaser of like we know it's the Boonchoys, even though they have the masks on. But imagine like
Fingers.
I wish like there are times when I wish like I was like 10 and I wasn't super invested in the fandom and like looking at every single like promo clip and moderating stuff, and just so like 10-year-old me is just like, oh, it's the Boonchoys, oh yeah, let's go. But yeah, that's just a fun
Don't forget,
thing.
the dad's a gamer too, so the dad must have had must have really fun
Yeah.
with his technology and stuff.
Yeah, so then we cut back to Anne and her friends. They're all in the cell, and then Anne is about to use her powers, but then Sprig and Hop Up kind of talk her out of it because they like we know how like Anne kind of like tires out after, and they don't want that to happen just yet. But I know like every time Anne's used her powers though, like it took her less time to recover, right? Especially in like last time it happened was the Three Armies, and
She was fine. Yeah.
yeah, she was mostly
So,
fine.
I mean, I think it might have wore out a little bit. I think they were just kind of like, okay, we got to save this when like we invade the castle or something like that. Which I guess they're in the castle, but I don't know. I mean, it's weird because I feel like that's a thing that's been established. She doesn't get tired that much now. So they kind of introduce not new things to her powers, but like things that existed, and they're just focusing on it a little more now. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, they're reminding us of it now because it's going to become important later on in the episode.
exactly.
it
First
also
act
it
set
also
things up.
yeah, it also seems like I haven't had like a training arc with Anne or anything, but there's been a clear progression of her control over her powers. Like from being like she didn't even know, and then it was like in extreme emotional moments she could activate it, and now it seems like she's got total control. She can just toggle them on and off. You can obviously use them for much longer, as we've seen.
Yeah, and then they let like Polly lets Frobo like try and free them, and then we find out that Polly did do like more than just add wheels to Frobo back on Earth, and he scans out the area and he just like cuts a hole in the cell, and they all just like plummet towards LA, and they all grab onto their flyers, Domino 2 and Joe, but they end up landing in a skyscraper. But credit for I'm glad engineering Polly is back, because she,
Yeah.
I'm counting this as a Polly win, even though Frobo helped out. She built Frobo. This is a
Yeah, it's 100% a Polly win.
Yeah, this is a Polly
Yeah.
win.
She knows her stuff. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, she makes that comment about like the signal range for their like restraints, so they just
Yeah.
automatically break loose, and the techno blabble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was scared that like, because I mentioned it before in Almtown Road, like where Polly didn't like hack the terminal or whatever for the drill. I was a little scared. I'm like, is Smart Polly gonna come back? I really hope so, because fixing Frobo was like one of my favorite episodes in 3A. So I was like, hopefully they bring that back, and thank God it comes back here in a really great way.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
glad
happy. Yeah,
Smart
I had
Polly.
that same fear as you. And yeah, they land in the skyscraper. The the others, like Grime, Yunnan,
Into a pool.
Yeah, into a pool on a skyscraper. Like Grime, Yunnan, and Olivia, they get their first like look at Earth, and I like how uh, Olivia like commented on how like geometric it was.
That's a good callback to her like connection with Amphibia, her job being to like keep nature in balance. So then this is a city,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah, and even like Newtopia's like architecture is very like, it's not as
It's
like
wild
urban.
and unplanned.
Oh, pardon?
Yeah, it's not planned. It's not like a planned city.
Yeah, yeah, right. And yeah, and like everything's like all the skyscrapers, all the squares, whatever. Yeah, and then that's when we get the that's when we get the Hop Pop Vietnam flashback, where we find out that like the Herons that kill. Maybe you guys kind of already made the connection, but like personally for me, I didn't really think that the Herons in Prison Break were the same Herons that killed Polly and Sprig's parents and attacked Wartwood. But Hop Up kind of confirms that like they've been like terrorizing the valley for years, and these are like the Herons. And yeah, that flashback was kind of brutal. And
So like when I saw that scene and when I was like when he said that, I was thinking like are there like the only species of heron left? Like those two or what?
I think these were like the biggest ones, and they like made a reputation for themselves because like no one could ever take them out.
Got it.
Like even in Prison Break, it took Grime, like Grime's
lot.
army or Grime's like platoon like barely like fought them off.
Oh yeah.
So like imagine these guys in like Wartwood. It's really not.
Last year basically.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently like Hop Up like gave that bird a scar
Yeah.
and fought back. It's yeah, so then eventually like the flashback ends, and the planners and Anne and her friends head down to like help people out, and that's when we get the reunion with the Boon Choys and Mr. X, and it's nice, it's sweet, and I know apparently like Matt mentioned that Mr. Boonchoy doesn't like Sasha, but I mean at least he doesn't really interact with her here. He just goes for Anne, and then Mrs. Boonchoy goes for Sasha.
Yeah, I thought we would have gotten something like that. I feel like that conflict wouldn't have been necessary to establish because, like, Sasha's conflict isn't really with. Well, it would have been a funny joke, but yeah, it was weird. They didn't mention it at all. I mean, Mrs. Boontroy was like all for Sasha coming back, so we don't really know like their relation, like how Mr. and Mrs. B think about Sasha and Marcy. So we didn't get like any snippets of that here besides like Mrs. B giving like Sasha a hug or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, Mr. Like apparently like the Boone Choice have been working with Mr. X, and I like that comment about how Mr. Boone Choice is like, oh, we convinced the government we're not crazy.
I'm glad that that's already been done. That would have been a bit much to have in all in, just to convincing everybody, this is Andrias is totally a real threat and everything like that. We just skip straight to the invasion, everyone going, yep, we gotcha.
And yeah, Mr. X mentioned that they had a few weeks head start. So it's been I'm guessing we don't have an exact like time frame, I think, but it's been a few weeks between Escape to Amphibia, and All In. I'm guessing it's more than 2, but
I assume it's a month. I always just assumed it was a month. That sounds like that'd make the most sense to me. I don't know. I feel like 3A was like 1 to 2 months, somewhere around there.
yeah.
I always say yeah. So like 1 month for 3B. That sounds like that makes sense. So yeah, I would say a month.
And then we get they need a new base, and I like the comment about like a prison-like structure, and then Sasha and Anna immediately think about school. And
That was funny.
I'm guessing, and there's Frobots around here, around this area too. So I don't know like how widespread this invasion. Look, I shouldn't say that. I'm guessing just like we saw in the beginning, Andrias kind of just unleashed a bunch of Frobots out into LA, and they eventually got to the school and whatever. We got the news. Corey Burton, he's like voicing like the news anchor. I just wanted to point that out because like I'm a fan of him, and we get that joke about like they talk about all the invasion stuff and then they talk about crypto.
Good old crypto. And then Hop Pop says typical LA.
I'm not sure if that's a jab at the news cycle or at Crypto Bros.
Yes.
I can't tell.
I think it's
Yes.
both.
Yeah.
I
Pop
guess so,
totally would
yeah.
have bought crypto like
Yeah.
a month ago, though.
I mean, I wish that it was an NFT joke, but like,
Either way, still true.
but I guess like crypto is still kind of like crypto was still talked about back in like 2016 and now. So
Right.
hopefully that joke ages poorly. But
Hopefully.
it's kind of weird wishing for like a joke to like age badly, but
I hope in 10 years everyone's just like, what?
yeah.
I mean, it is also kind of true that Amphibia does rely a reasonable amount on contemporary just references and that sort of thing. So we'll see how well it ages over time. Because
Wait, so by
it's stuff
contemporary,
like
do you mean like
these
modern
jokes.
jokes? Like
It relies on
modern events.
like the modern context and like understanding and living now. Like in 10 years' time, things like the life-giving K-pop will hit less good than it does now because we're all growing up in a time when it's massive and we're in the moment and we're bopping along because that's kind of what's happening in our world right now.
Oh, okay. It's kind of similar how I think in season 1 Anne made a lot of like because like all the writers here like grew up in like an earlier time, like Anne was like talking about like magazines, and that's something that isn't as contemporary, or yeah, I think I'm using the word right. Or it's not as like, it's not really a 2000, it's not something a 2000s kid would do, but maybe that was just the writers showing their age at that. It's like sometimes the writers show their age for some jokes, then other jokes they show like they're in the modern, in like in the present day, but I guess it balances itself out. Yeah, they're at the school. Sasha and Anne do recon. Mr. and Mrs. B bring food. And then we get Polly looking at that metal shop, and I'm glad she's the one who makes the upgrade, because like if Ali and Jess was there, if Ali and Jess were here with them, yeah, like they would help out, but it's like it's nice that Polly gets to rebuild Frobo better, faster, stronger. uh Sprig serves, like Grime gets to try out some Thai food. He's dying, and while he's dying in the background, Anne and Sasha find Anne's locker. They have the conversation about like whether or not they can defeat Darcy, and Anne's the one kind of giving the like Anne still has hope, kind of. Like throughout these episodes, Sasha has been kind of the skeptic, and then I like how Anne's the one to always like kind of bring up like Anne is Sasha Sprig now, basically.
I mean, yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
because Anne's certain of herself already, and Orlean is about recognizing that properly, whereas Orlean for Sasha is about her just taking that final step, and she's not sure that she's changed enough. And by the end of Orlean, she is very certain, no, I have actually changed. I am a different person. And so, especially earlier on, we get this kind of uncertainty that's just kind of lying. She's 90% keen and 10%, yo, but what if?
Oh my god, I was literally just about to say the same thing. Okay. Yeah, but like I'll add on to that cuz Sasha never had like the second temple moment where like for Anne, the second temple moment was when Anne realized like, yo, I actually have changed. I'm actually this really cool person. Sasha's like she's like always so scared to be like that toxic influence for Anne back in Commander Anne. And like she never had that moment. She's 100% sure I'm not that person. I'm much better than I was now. She's not secure of herself yet. So yeah, just adding on to that.
Yeah, and Marcy actually, I think she also gets her moment, sort of like that later in the episode. Although I do think that she might get more next episode, just because she only just got out of the course. She hasn't had a lot of time to really talk with her friends and sort of figure out where they're gonna go. I mean, like metaphorically, not like where are we going literally.
And yeah, I like all those points, and I like how we get to see. I'm guessing Anne had 2 copies of that BFF's photo, because I know she had one in Best Friends, and she has another one in her locker, right?
Yeah, there was one
Yeah.
posted on the locker, and then one she kept around with her.
Yeah, I guess every image we've seen is Anne has one on her, Sasha has one on her, and and has one in the locker, and then we never see Marcy with a real one, although there's like one in the
Yeah.
there's one in the intro that people have speculated is hers, and there's the one that she has in the mindscape. They all have the same cut on them, which is kind of bugging me a little bit.
Yeah, it's as if they like had them all stacked together, and then someone just took a pair of scissors.
I will say though that I do like um you know what? No, I'll save that for the Sasha Darcy. Save it.
Okay. I'm looking through Sunsfury's notes. What's the note about the mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell? Is that in like
There's
the?
a poster in the biolab,
Oh, okay.
in the science lab, and it just says you don't even. I don't think you ever see the bottom half of it that says the powerhouse of the cell, but it just says the mitochondria, and as this mitochondria just like working out, and I'm just sitting there going, oh no, that's like the saying of anybody who has ever been in year 9 and 10 science and had to do bio, because it's just it's somehow universal, and I don't get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like
Or
I
at
do
least,
remember
okay,
people
it's like,
talking about it
it
in.
was like at least
Oh, go ahead, Sunsfury.
like within my own school, which is notably not in the US at all, there was the joke about how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That was like as like the one thing anybody ever remembered from bio. And then I see it on a poster here in Frog Show, and I'm sitting going, "What? Excuse me?
Oh, I do remember we
Hold
joked
up,
about it
what?"
in middle school, like when we did our like when we learned about like the basic parts of the cell, and it's like I think my elementary teacher was the one who made the joke where like he kind of emphasized it about the mitochondria being the powerhouse, but like none of us really reacted. I just remember him being weird about it.
I think it's just something that was part of the curriculum and then became a joke, which inspired more people to put in their curriculum. It's just a feedback loop. I've definitely seen it around the internet and within like my own school. So
So I guess we can get into the like in between these school scenes, we have the Darcy mindscape stuff, and I guess we can get into that. And I like how when they cut back from commercial, it's like they show this grid structure, and then it just has like it shows that only like the room Marcy's in is like rendered, and she's just sitting there solving a bunch of puzzles. And we get there's a bunch of stuff like I think there's like a Yu-Gi-Oh reference. I don't really know what it was, but I know there was a like a G1 Megatron there, and I'm not sure how. I guess the toy itself is a puzzle, but that's just what that's just the Transformer fan in me, just like that's what my eyes fixated on the moment I saw it. But
Hmm.
yeah, and all that stuff is really interesting, like how it shifts, how the setting shifts, and Aldrich shows up. Like I don't want to talk too much. Like you guys can discuss if you'd like. And
I will say that it is interesting of why she was put into the room. I mean, obviously it's so then she doesn't interact with the core. But like it is interesting that they give Marcy like a bunch of different kinds of puzzles. I think like the core already knew that Marcy was like a good enough host. I'm not sure maybe if the puzzles themselves that are like make sure okay, she can definitely be assimilated into the core, and then like the rest of like the mindscape stuff is there to trick her to get assimilated into it. That's what I thought was happening. Yeah.
I kind of felt like the puzzles were there as a distraction to stop her from just thinking about anything else and just like fixate on the puzzles while she's trapped in this tiny box.
That fits
It
too.
certainly
That fits Marcy's
like it certainly
character.
worked. She went through
Yeah.
300.
Yeah, that fits Marcy's character pretty well. So I mean, that could be the case too.
It just seems like, I mean, I guess we got the tiny little box there. I guess it was literal because she was literally locked in a tiny little box.
Yeah, and then like I think right after she, it seems like when she's solving all these puzzles, and like right when her like brain starts to like realize something's off, that's when the core immediately like brings up the door and just opens it up for her to like enter that fantasy field. Sorry, before that it was the I guess like the library, or I think Aldrich calls it like the sanctum. I'm trying to pull up some notes.
I'm trying to see right now if that's what he's.
Okay, the core's inner sanctum. Thank you, Sunsfury's notes. Yeah, like it shows like all like the newts who are probably like also past hosts, all just like strolling around. But I don't know whether or not like this was just something fabricated by the host, by the core, specifically Aldrich, because Aldrich seems like his own personality. Like this part of the core is like interacting with her, and then maybe everything else is just like is probably just the illusion.
It seems more like Aldrich is kind of the core's puppet, or the face of the core, whether or not it's actually just specifically Aldrich the whole time. Because they also kind of use it when talking to Andrias. It's Aldrich's face and body to kind of feel familiar to Andrias and convince him to do stuff, but I don't know if it's actually just Aldrich or the whole core just manipulating him.
I'd assume it's the whole core because even like I guess either way it might not even matter because Aldrich was so like he was kind of already a part of the core in the core and the king before he got assimilated. Either way, he just let it like choose its every move. He was like 100% team core, you know. So like I feel like either way, even if it is him or amalgamation of them represented through him, it still works. So I think it just kind of leads to the same thing in general. Yeah.
And also maybe because Aldrich was like he's technically like the last person who was absorbed into the consciousness. So maybe that's like the most like Aldrich is definitely like blended into like the minds of the core, but maybe he's still like the most I guess retained the most of himself as of right now. I'm not really. This is me just like speculating.
Maybe. I mean, it from the optimization process in the core and the king, it looks like maybe some minds kind of like get buried through time or like have to be erased because the core said it had to erase certain memories and stuff. So maybe like minds that just aren't as like bright or all of them are smart, but like ones that are like don't have like the most amount of information, they kind of get like removed out of there. So yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, that's when like the setting shifts to like the fantasy world that Marcy wanted, and we get to see Marcy get like super interested by it, and then the core knows how much she loves all this stuff, and then right when Marcy thinks she forgot something, Aldrich just gives that map for her to go on an adventure. And I think we can go back to St. James Middle School, where unless any of you guys want to add on to that first bit of the mindscape. Okay, so back at St. James, we have the. Oh wait, Pickle, were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, one thing I found interesting was it had the two moons, And I don't know if this was the actual intent, but I kind of interpreted it as like the combination of the best parts of Amphibia and the best parts of Earth. Because I mean, both of the shows have, or both of the worlds, and especially in this show, have had like some emphasis on the moons, and having the two moons kind of felt like, because we got the side of Amphibia being all about fun adventuring for Marcy, and this side of Earth being all about her friends, and then this world kind of combines to have most idealistic best part of both of those.
I'm looking at the mindscape scene. So did the moon show up in that first scene? Because I know it shows up later.
Did it not?
Yeah, I think that's the next mindscape scene.
Yeah, I think they
sorry.
come later because we don't actually go up to the sky.
Yeah.
Until later.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that up later too because of its symbolism. But yeah, like back to St. James, we have, or not even back to St. James. It cuts back to like Darcy and Andrias, and Darcy is just like watching all the chaos unfold, and
Andrews is just like tired. Darcy's having a good time, and Andrews.
yeah, he just wants to get this all over with. And
He looks miserable, to
Darcy
be
came
honest.
in.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
If you go back to Rerereunion, when the core and Marcy like were one, you can tell the look on Andrias's face that he didn't want to do it. He felt bad almost.
yeah, we'll get into that later too, because
Oh my god.
yeah, and like back at St. James, we get that interaction with Yuan holding a gun for the first time, and that was just that was just funny. And we also get Frobo 2.0, and he's like, I was waiting for this so long. So long.
All of us, to be honest.
Tired of those damn wheels.
But I like the wheels. I like them. I still
But
like
he's hot
them.
pink now. He's so cool.
That is a good color scheme. Mr. X is right.
He
That
is
is
so
really good color scheme.
snazzy.
I mean, it's Polly's
So
color
sassy.
scheme, but yeah, it's still cool.
It almost has a regal feel to it as well.
I mean, he looks exactly like the sort of robot that a 5-year-old would build, but he also looks so good.
Gundam Junior. Basic Gundam Juniors, basically.
I mean, it basically is. She has her own seat in the back.
Yeah, Polly's got her little her own little bucket.
And with a drink holder. Because those are the best.
Also, that's the Mabel rainbow plus star thing on his right.
I love how
right?
yeah, it is, and I love how Polly took that advice from Ali and Jess from fixing Frobo, where they mentioned to add stickers to personalize it.
Yeah.
So it's here she's personalizing it again. I like how she remembered that advice. And the only thing, the color scheme's great, but then when you get to the feet, then I remember, oh yeah, Frobo used to be a frog-shaped robot, because I remember his design also had those really weird feet.
It did look weird, didn't it? It kind of did look weird.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
It almost looked human, to be honest. Looking at it a couple of times. Huh.
And Sunsfury, I know you mentioned your notes about you were on a robotics team in high school, I guess. Because I was as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I related to that. Did you have a metal shop?
I mean, we did have a metal working area, but that was just part of normal school because you had to do it and of the rest of the design and tech group that we did use. But yes, but it wasn't particularly great, Stan. It's not like this kind of snazzy. And we had teams against us who definitely had a fair bit more funding.
Lucky.
Yeah, private school funding. And did you do what kind of what's the name of the competition you did?
First robotics.
Like, did you do like Vex robotics?
No.
Okay.
No. Like the actual competition was called First Robotics.
Oh, you did first. Okay. Yeah, I know what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. So you did like
Yeah, we were at the.
the 6-week build thing.
Is it only 6 weeks? I feel like it was much longer than that.
Oh,
That we
okay.
had time
Maybe
for.
thinking about something else. Like,
Yeah, it was
but-
a longer duration.
oh, okay. But yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I
But,
got
like-
a little bit off topic.
And we were like the. Yeah, because
We're
they only
nerds, guys.
started doing like the. Yeah, let's actually get on back on topic. Huh?
Yeah, so yeah, Polly
nerds.
rebuilt Frobo, and
Okay, nerds.
we get poor Sprig is looking at the letter, and
Oh my god.
Hop like Sprig mentions like after everything is done, like after all this is over, things can go back to normal, and then Hop like has to like
Lie.
try not lie. He kind of starts the conversation about how like Anne is eventually going to go back home, and Sprig is like nothing will change. Like Sprig is coping as much as I am, where it's like they'll still have their monster of the week adventures after all this, and
I like that they're totally self-aware that they're like Monster of the Week TV show.
yeah, and it'll come back later, but yeah, just
Mhm.
when Sprig mentions like, oh, Anne will always be a big part of my life, and like it's not like Hop and Sprig are thinking about it in like two different like
Perspectives.
perspectives. It's just so it's so good.
Also, it definitely feels like the conversation, like Pop, he's older and wiser, and Sprig's just a kid. He's like 11. He's extremely smart for his age. That's been established many times, but he's still like young, and he totally he doesn't fully understand the situation he's in, and like it's gonna have to happen at the end, and the stakes here.
And
Oh
at
God,
this
next week is gonna be a tearjerker.
yeah, and at this point they still like there's still the assumption that the box can be used to go back and forth, and
Man, I really hope so.
I do too. I don't want to end things off with a closed. With Amphibia and Earth closed off.
like I'll probably I don't want to get too much into it, but like there's a case where what we don't want to happen does happen, and it is in the service of the story. But yeah, just Sprig coping like me and like us.
It's just like us for real.
Yes, I am very well aware that there's a good chance we have that split.
Yeah, and then it's kind of interrupted where like Anne and Sasha come in with the whiteboard, and they've drawn out the plan to take down. They want to take out Andrias, take out the Herons guarding the castle, and save some civilians. And then they want to have a team that infiltrates the castle to take out the generator to help Earth's forces fight back. And I do think it's interesting how they put how they structured the plan, where it's basically Anne's family is like on the ground helping people out, while like Sasha and Grime and Yunnan and Olivia, like the generals, I guess their fighters are like infiltrating, and they're doing like the stealth mission, and it kind of makes sense how like Anne's the heart, and I like how she's the one like on the ground.
It's also connected to the fact that, well, Grime, Yunnan, and Olivia are the Sasha and Marcy connected characters. So we see them going off to the Marcy angle, while we have Anne, who's preparing to take on Andrias, because that is going to be the showdown of the century.
Right. And it cuts back to before we get into like the Darcy and Andrias scenes. Like, is there anything else you guys want to add on here at the school? Okay, so we'll go to.
Nah.
Oh, Impact, did you?
No. I said no.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we cut back to Darcy gaming, and she's yeah, they do make it look like she's gaming, where she's like selecting her forces and like targeting.
Command and Conquer, basically.
Like it's like a what's it called? Not an RPG, but like what's those? Yeah,
RTS.
Yeah, RTS game, and
Oh, okay.
she's kind of extra about it, where she has the robots attack all the tanks surrounding the center one, and then just has like the moving fortress just laser out the last one in the middle. It's kind of extra, but oh well. And she's using all of it, and it's using all of its eyes to like look at all the screens at once. And...
Yeah, I like them using Marcy's like fun of like, because Marcy kind of saw Amphibia to a certain degree, as a kind of a game, and Darcy kind of sees taking over other worlds and stuff for its own benefit, kind of its own little game too. So I like that they play with that in its own way here. It's a twisted version of what Marcy is essentially. So I like that.
And I like how, yeah, it's this twisted version of Marcy, and then like while she's like laughing maniacally, Andrew's just like looking like, what the fuck did I create?
You can see the bags. You can see the bags in his eyes. Like, jeez, I made a horrible mistake.
Yeah, I mean, now not only is he serving an evil master, he's serving a gamer.
God.
Who cheats him like
gamers.
Garbage too.
Oh my god.
Toxic
More hot
game.
pockets. More hot pockets, Andrias. Chop chop.
Andrias, bring me my gamer fuel.
Yeah, then I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but yeah, later like Darcy starts bleeding Mountain Dew.
Oh god. That's Jesus.
But
my gamer fuel, no.
But yeah, it cuts to the flashback, and well, Andrias' own flashback. I like this episode has like flashbacks everywhere. I guess because of the 48-minute runtime, like. But yeah,
the 5 commercial breaks.
Yeah, just to fill out that hour. But
that was a real enemy, the whole episode. Let's be honest.
But yeah, like it goes back, like it cuts back to Andrias like sitting in his pajamas, I guess, and then we get to see that first encounter between Marcy and Andrias, and I guess Pickle, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of like. I mean, it's been around since even before the show, before the TC and everything happened. But Andrias calling Marcy Master Marcy, especially like right out of the gate, that's like a title. Sure, it's for like sons of royalty. I guess it would extend to daughters in this case. So I mean, it's even more heavily implied that there's definitely for Marcy, even if he's been like pushing it down and pretending she's just some kind of pawn to him. There's also, it's pretty funny how like Olivia gets so stressed seeing Marcy being casual, and Andrias is just like, okay, I'll do this.
Shots were really good for Olivia's face.
And I guess Sticks, if you're ready, what were your thoughts on this Andrias flashback?
I have many thoughts about this particular moment, but more than anything, I really seriously believe that ever since the moment that Leif took the box, that moment when Andrias met Marcy was the first like happy day he'd ever had. Genuinely, like
I
you can
agree.
see it. You can see it in his face how he lights up immediately. Just it was already big enough that Marcy called him Dreas, like right out of the gate. That was that was enough of an emotional gut punch. But the fact that he took a liking to her just right out of the gate, and well, I don't want to like get too uh, much later into the scene, but I don't know. I really think that was the first time he was happy in a very long time.
Yeah, and I like how, like you guys brought up, like Olivia is like freaking out because maybe this is not some like Andrews didn't really act as jolly all the time before this, maybe
Massa,
I
he
was
held
I was
in a
thinking
lot of
that.
pain.
because
It might also just
oh, go ahead.
be, and we've seen Olivia's kind of need for the normal order of things and the like procedures, and then like even after like when Anne and the Flanders met him, she was like, you must follow the procedures and all of that, even though he was pretty obviously chill about it.
Okay, so maybe yeah, I think we talked about this before. Like, yeah, maybe he was just always kind of chill and it's just Olivia freaking out. But like, Marcy wasted no time, like getting her way into his heart and like, I guess her pocket, like the pocket, getting into
Oh
his
yeah,
pocket, like, and like she had a
I was
broken
just gonna.
leg and she was able to climb around him.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm glad we saw this too because it kind of showed the importance of why Andreas had that special bond with Marcy, and you know, it's just really good. Like there's like we see Andreas's purpose with Marcy and like how quickly he made Marcy into like this head general of all sense. It's like I'm glad we had a lot of flashbacks because we have a lot of answers to more questions and theories and all that stuff and a lot of callbacks to past episodes. And this one in particular really set the bar. I'm surprised we didn't see this flashback in the Corn the King, to be honest.
I think it works better here because, like, with the Court and the King, it's not really about Andrias and Marcy's relationship. That's not like a bigger thing. It's much bigger here because Marcy was the one friend who kind of gave Andrias that like similar kind of like happiness that Leif Barrel. So to me, like I think having this flashback here was really good either way. And I like that the show kind of sees it until these bigger moments because this was like kind of a long time coming. We've met like Anne and Sprig, Sasha, Grime. We've had like the girl and their amphibious friend. So it's nice that we finally got that meeting with Marcy and Andrea, and like we've seen all the fuck ups with it mostly, but it was nice to see like that beginning part of it and how wholesome it was until the core, comes in and starts acting like an. But yeah,
Yeah, and then we have like
I won't
Marcy giving
claim.
the gift, like that little pin robot thing on his collar. Oh, Pickle, you wanted to say something, right?
I won't claim that Andreas was ever like a nice person to. I mean, like he always had ulterior motives. He was always manipulating her, and like he seriously screwed her over.
oh,
It's sweet to watch, even knowing, and a lot of people thought that Andreas was going to become a villain for a very long time before TC, but it was still fun to see the way he interacted with Marcy and the sort of cute father-daughter the pseudo father-daughter chemistry they had.
Yeah, just like one of preference. I'm not saying that like Andrias was rude, like at all, like even like at all. So like I still think Andrias was still an ass through and through. So like it's just like that one moment is it's nice to see. I still think like Andrias is still actions and stuff. I don't think he just wasn't evil, like with the so yeah.
And then like Marcy gave that gift to Andrias, and then like we get that moment where like Andrias is like kind of jolly with Marcy, treats her as like a honored guest, and then when they walk off, we have like Andrias has that brief moment where he like admires like the gift Marcy gave him, and then just everything gets extremely unsettling when the core like pulls him into the mindscape.
Oh my.
And I guess Sunsfury, do you want to lead us on that on this scene?
Oh goodness. I just the eyes, the way that they move across, they don't just stay like even on the same. I just like got my push to talk. Okay, so the way that the eyes just move around the entire 360 sphere of like across the sides of Andrias, they go below him at one point in time. It's just it just screams, this is not normal, this is weird, things aren't supposed to it preys on the human fear of lots, like that kind of, this is too many eyes to be normal, what's going on? And then when we show Aldrich, and it just pans up and we see his two, instead of his two regular eyes, which we have known and we have seen before, so we have that connection to him, we see just a bunch of core eyes in this place, completely orange, completely out of place. And you look at that face and you go, this is dark, terrible, and completely wrong, just naturally. And I love that.
I got scared when that happened. I actually jumped. I actually jumped a bit. Like, holy shit. God. I didn't really expect that. I just expected like the orange the top of the crown. But I didn't expect like the full eyes and retinas. There you go, my.
I think one thing that I really love about this scene, and I think what like they've done with Andrias and the core in general, I love that like Andrias and the core are kind of like never really on the same page. And what I mean by that is like I've said it before, Aldrich was like team core, right? He was like all for the core. He loved the core. He was pretty much a part of it before he even joined it. But Andrias is always like hesitant to listen to it. He doesn't like it. Like he praised it a little bit in Rerereunion, but that's because he's supposed to. Like he does not like this nasty ass thing. And I love that there's always conflict and like tension between Andrias and the core. So like when the core is like, yo, kill her, like Aldrich would have been like, okay, sure. But Andrias was like, whoa, let's just chill out. You're bugging out. Crazy. So, and we see that, we saw that in Rerereunion as well. There's always tension between those two. And like, the only reason why Andrias really listens to it, at least at this point, not only because it has control, and we'll see that a little later too with Darcy, but like also because Andrias straight up like hates himself for what he did for trusting his friends and not listening to his father and getting the calamity box stolen. He feels like this is his responsibility to do. And the core is someone who actively like belittles and punishes him when he doesn't get anything done. So I love that like toxic relationship. I don't like toxic relationship, but I love that dynamic between the core and Andrias. I think that was really cool, and it's a cool parallel to Anne and Sasha too. It's almost like a super dark version of them. So yeah.
Thank you, Sunsfury. And Yeah, we see him.
Sunsfury.
Sorry, thank you, Impact.
Wait.
We
I was gonna say.
we see that arguing between the core and Andrias about what to do with Marcy, and like Andrias is like he's kind of doing everything he can not to like kill Marcy, and then that's when he brings up like the temples, and then we find out that the temples were designed as a like I guess a back exit, like a back door for the chosen ones if they didn't really want to participate in this conflict, where apparently it was like an ancient text, and then the translated ruin said, "Heroes chosen, imbued with might, shall be given a chance to abandon our plight." So, yeah, it's just interesting how the temples were all like everything about the temples was basically that entire quest in season 2B was basically them kind of like forfeiting. And yeah, it's like basically like trying to abandon their like responsibility, and was the only one that was left there. And of course there's like some coincidences, and
I find it interesting that in order to abandon the mission and like abandon what they came here to do, they have to prove they had the trait that was part of the box, or the one that they were chosen for.
and
Yeah, about that, I wanted to say, like, thinking about what each of the temple was supposed to be testing for secretly, like um, persistence, responsibility, and humility. It almost feels like the temples are trying to steer, uh, the supposed heroes back from their goal of abandoning the quest. Kind of, I don't know, because those particular, um, let's say, lessons that they kind of impart on the trio, kind of feels like, okay, are you sure you want to leave? Because, like, okay, you've proven that you're responsible, that you're persistent, and that you're humble, and yet you're, I don't know, I think I'm still trying to like make sense of it all.
Yeah, I think it'll take the hardest thing to really make sense of it all, but I like that vibe because especially with the second temple really has that push of it's it's trying to push, hey, you're responsible and show off your responsibility and heart, which doesn't connect to abandoning the plight very well. So I'm with you. I'm with you that the temples are there to try and prevent you from taking that option. But because of the time that's passed and everything, things have changed. Who knows? Let's hope we find out next episode, because that's gonna be fun.
yeah, and I guess Princess Cthulhu, if you're there, like if you want to join in, what are your thoughts? We kind of reached the point where we PC, do you want to join? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm
okay.
sorry about that.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to
no
jump
worries.
in.
We just got into the we're talking about the prophecy, not the prophecy, the I guess the backdoor prophecy about like the temples and how it could like how it drained the gems power from the girls, and how that's like Andrias seems to have like kind of proposed that to mostly to protect Marcy at this moment, but then like it's interesting how like Aldrich kind of brings up how like, oh, okay, now instead of killing them, if we have the powers back in the box, we can get things to go back to the way they were. And I like how like Andrias doesn't really like propose that idea. It's mostly like Aldrich kind of like leaving the idea out there and then giving him credit for it. But that kind of just like adds into the dynamic they have.
Right. No, I think that's something I definitely agree with in terms of their kind of weird, fucked up dynamic. I always thought that the back door to the prophecy was interesting. I caught a little bit of the end of what other people were saying in regards to like the temples being like a way to like convince you to not give up the prophecy. And on one hand, I do like that. But on the other hand, I feel like if they wanted to prevent the prophecy from being backed out of, they just wouldn't have built the temples.
Like maybe because like the temples were kind of like they felt bad for like bringing in some like random strangers into their world. It's like, all right, we can't be like too horrible with them. Like we gotta like present this alternative, but
I think while the temples were definitely a way to do it, I don't think they were designed with the purpose of undoing the prophecy. Partially because of Valeriana's order, which like I don't know. It just seems like it was more of a recharging the gems type thing.
I feel like the temples
Okay,
have
fair,
definitely a positive, more positive point than like, because I think it's the way the prophecy is like worded that makes it sound negative. Like I forget exactly what it says, like lose your plight, something like that. So it makes it sound like
yeah,
it makes it sound like a huge negative, but like the temples clearly like challenge the users of the gems. So they want to make sure that like, okay, you guys are like the people for the job. Y'all are good.
right.
So like,
But that's part of why I don't think they would build first. I don't think they would build temples with the explicit purpose of undoing the prophecy. And also, if they were trying to if they felt bad and wanted to give people a way out, why would they make the way out more difficult? Like, it just makes more sense to me is if these temples were originally put into place to just test your right to use the gems, and then by going through them again, they got their powers drained.
I think it might have to do with like make sure that not just anyone could walk into the temples to like because these temples are specifically for the chosen heroes if they wish to get rid of the powers. They don't want just any random
that-
frog being like, "Oh, what's this cool temple?"
I don't know. I guess it could work like that, but that just doesn't make much sense to me because, I mean, didn't we get like inscriptions and stuff about the proving yourself? Why would you need to prove yourself to give up? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, like maybe this will all
Like-
get explained next week.
Yeah, like when Valeriana shows up again, it might get explained next week. But I just don't see the logic in we should give the chosen ones a chance to back out, but we don't want them to back out, so we'll make it hard for them to back out with these tests. But we'll still build the temples that will let them back out in the first place. It's too cyclical. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I guess we should probably like move on to the next scene where sorry, because like I'm just trying to keep this on track, but
No, it's fine. No, sorry. That was my initial thoughts as I just jumped in.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, and then
Can I say one last thing quickly
yeah, sure thing.
about this? I actually just thought back specifically to like the very end or the near end of the second temple, because like Valeriana does not immediately offer Anne like the chance to back out. She says, "What do you want?" And then she fulfills Anne's wish of like charging the stone. I think that is like a pointer towards the idea that the temples are there or were there originally in order to like I don't know, give the heroes something, anything that was within their power to grant them, not necessarily leaving.
Yeah, in my mind, the temples are just there as like, I guess, stone maintenance is the best way to put it. Like they're just there to,
Stone storage.
yeah, they're there to recharge the gems and help the heroes.
And I guess we cut back to Andrias like looking at that gift Marcy gave, and he's still holding on to it. And yeah, we just see him doubting about what he wants or how like this is everything he wants, but not really. And we get a bunch of action scenes with Sprig and Anne riding on Domino 2 throughout the city. We get Doctor Frakes, not Doctor Frakes. Whoops. We get Dr. Jan and Terry making a brief appearance, helping out. We get this is me kind of just like getting into like the planner Heron conflict where like Frobo and Polly like Polly's armed like Frobo's new body with a bunch of weapons. Polly's got her own Gatling gun. Get all that fighting, and Hop Hop beats up like one like Hop Hop bullies one random Frobot, and then like
Armor style.
yeah, and then we get like the trauma of this episode with Hop Hop like seeing those herons, and he just freezes up in place. Polly comes by, she freezes up. Sprig is like,
Cowarding.
yeah, Sprig's
Like,
just like
shocked.
crawled up and thinking about the sound because like you remember they were in the basement when all this went down, and
Yeah, so they basically heard, not seen, what happened.
yeah, then like
Right.
yeah, Frobo has to like take them all out, like take them out of the like take them out of that area, and we'll get into the Sasha and Marcy scenes later. Like we'll just cover this planner subplot now, but man, like there's not like I don't want to just recap it too much, but it's like Anne tries to give them the talk, and they're I love I don't want to say it's kind of terrible. It's just funny how Hop Up's just like, oh yeah, I guess we're still like we still have a little bit of trauma from how the Herons like destroyed our family. And it's just it's funny and heartbreaking at the same time, and then we get that moment where like Matt talked about this in his interview where like there's something that missing piece for Polly and Sprig, but in this case it's Hop Hop, but the Boonchoys are in danger, those herons are going after them, and then that's when the planners like spring into action. I'm probably gonna talk too much about it, so I'm just gonna stop right there and like let you guys like
It was a hype scene. It was a really hype scene,
Also
though.
have to. I really like it because so it's kind of clever that the way things slot because Hop Hop is a grandfather role, like takes the role of is the grandfather of the combined family. Like Anne gets brought in as a daughter, siblings to Polly and Sprig effectively, but that means that Mr. and Mrs. Burnchoy, like throughout the entire series, just kind of slot in as the parents for this whole combined family without stepping on Hop Pop's toes ever at all.
Oh,
And I think
yeah.
that's wonderful. And then we get the parallels here of Mum and Dad potentially dying a second time to the Herons, which triggers all the Plantars to go full beast mode.
I absolutely agree. It's amazing how well the family unit is just kind of slotted together.
Mhm.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like that's like the main reason why we had Hop Hop like be like so old instead of like a younger caretaker. Like maybe like if Matt always
68.
yeah, crisp 68 and
Crisp 68.
I think Matt mentioned that Anne was always meant to go back to LA, so it's like the parents were always meant to like fill in that role for the planners, and it's just, and like it's very like they're very direct with the dialogue about how like they won't lose another family member to these herons, and it's still a great moment. And man, and like we get that like chase in the air, and all that stuff was fun. And
That was great animation.
yeah, they try
Yeah,
to do
absolutely.
I do appreciate the attempted trip maneuver, and then the bird just goes, "Yo, I can fly."
they try to do
Yeah.
like the AT-AT maneuver, and
Oh my god.
That was a fun bit.
and
Uh,
oh, go ahead.
No, I will say, and this is me, you know how I like to discuss stuff. If I had one
I know what you're gonna bring up.
slight qualm with this setup, I just like conceptually have an issue with someone suffering from survivor's guilt who felt like they could have stopped it from happening, being proven right that they could have stopped it from happening.
Frobo was a big help in this fight.
Frobo was.
Yeah.
Was. I'm just saying, like, on a conceptual level, something about this whole setup just kind of, it doesn't ruin the scene for me, but it does kind of like I can feel the narrative friction.
Yeah, I get that criticism. Like
That's fair.
Because I mean, I love seeing the planters band together to save the moon choice. That's just great, and I love seeing that.
Shows
But
that
just-
bond.
Yeah, it's so good, but I don't know. I don't know when I know wasn't on purpose, but when you're doing this kind of story, it can be really easy to justify survivor's guilt, and I'm not sure they totally nailed it this time.
yeah, that's a fair thing. Like especially when they show like in this episode that like Hopper was actually present at the battle or at the fight, and like that's something we didn't really know back in After the Rain.
He, like, actually like
Yeah, actually
injured
fought
the
them,
heron. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, there's a lot of good stuff there. It shows how they've grown stronger as a family and just like literally grown stronger. That they can now fight off the herons.
I like how it doesn't end with like defeating the herons. It's like because when we see them like take
Yes.
them down, like they take the herons down, like one conveniently lands on top of the other while it's attacking the boon choice, and like the planners are all walking up to those herons. And I thought they were just gonna do some like a montage of like punching and kicking the herons down, but like we see that the mind control like the mind callers where like break off, and then like the moment they all like shift their feet on the ground, like that's when you know what's happening next. And like oh like the planner hunting dance is just such a
Really.
I love how like victorious it is in this scene. Like we saw Sprig do it
Like,
for those grubbles, I guess, but like
yeah, we never really saw them do it as a family.
Right.
And
I wish
like, while I have my problems with the whatever setup, I have absolutely zero problems with the planters defeating the herons in the most planter way possible.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, for sure. It
I
it
love
surprised
that
me,
hunters.
but I'm all for it.
I like
love
how
that.
Gotta keep that,
And
you gotta keep that tradition alive.
Yeah, I love that it's impossible to skip Ant Hunter in this show now. It's so plot relevant. You can't
Oh
not
my
watch it.
god! For real! For real!
You really can't now. Like,
So why would people skip episodes anyway in this show?
Like,
I
Like-
also really like that this is like a leveled up version of the theme, so you've got all of the brass going on as well as the original Plantar theme going on. The
I
dance
didn't even
theme.
notice.
It just feels extra triumphant for the finale, and we're going, yeah, hero moment, let's go, let's dance in front of some birds.
I wish Anne joined in on that, because like the Boon Choi's ask Anne like what's going on, and then just Anne's like too busy doing the dance with them.
Yeah. Although I'm excited to see, because you know how people will make the watch guides for people who want to see the show but they don't want to watch the whole show.
Ah,
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to see like
Scott.
major plot on Ann Hunter, and then people in the comments like, I'm halfway through the show, just watched Ann Hunter. What do you mean it's a major plot?
I mean, you could make that case with
Bro,
like a
just
bunch
trust
of
me.
these episodes, like with every episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of an episode that doesn't have at least one relevant callback.
Like maybe Grubhog Day, maybe Civil War, but they still have like
We
It's
saw
still like
we
background
saw the
jokes,
Grubhog.
though.
Yeah, and we saw the Grubhog
I mean-
when the war started, when the battle started.
yeah, but I know
Because
it's not
Filler is a
Okay,
dirty
it's not the
definitely
same
skip.
weight as
You don't
like,
need to say that.
Did Sprig get schooled ever get? I forget if that episode.
I don't think so.
No, not really.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
Sprig
okay.
at school doesn't really happen.
Yeah, that's fair. There are a couple that don't have like immediately relevant callbacks outside of background jokes, but there are shockingly few considering how many segments this show has.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think like speaking of callbacks for a second, what are the things that like so like after the rain, obviously that episode has a big it's on this one. When I first watched After the Rain, it was kind of like I thought it was just kind of okay. And then watched First Temple, and that episode made like Hop Pop and Anne's like conflict a whole lot like better because it kind of focused on it a little bit more. That was kind of my problem. Went by super quick a little bit. So that episode was like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. Now it kind of added to a 7.5 after Temple. And then the beginning of the end showed up, and it was like, oh, we're gonna use that forgiveness thing here. Okay. Then After the Rain turned into an 8 out of 10. And then this episode comes out, and I'm like, I
10
can't
out of
like
10.
say I dislike. I was almost it's like 9 out of 10. I was like, oh my god.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like, holy shit. I actually love this episode now. Thanks to like every single thing referencing to it, it makes it like age so much better. It's great. So
Which makes me respect this episode a lot because it kind of took its time with the callbacks as well. I mean, After the Rain was a really specific plot point in Amphibia, and it took its time with
yeah.
with everyone getting resolved. Like it's like this whole episode is 48 minutes all in, and like
think-
it took a whole bunch of callbacks from 11-minute episodes, and it took its time in a really structural way.
I'm so sorry for like we gotta continue with the episode.
No, that's fair.
Oh,
Like,
sorry.
like-
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I love all this
yeah.
planner talk. You guys know you
Yeah.
guys know me, but yeah, like they immediately like tame those herons and send them out against Andrias's army, and that's when we see Darcy losing their cool, starting to crack. Like you see the cracks when they see everything kind of like everything hasn't completely fallen apart, but it's like kind of all these annoyances are starting to add up, and she sends Andrias down to go after Anne, and then we kind of saw a couple of scenes with. Actually, sorry. I think we'll quickly cover the Marcy mindscape scene. Like this episode kind of like goes back and forth with so many plots. Like Marcy's in her fantasy land, and it's kind of lonely for her. And then that's when we get the Anne and Sasha mindscape versions of them that completely agree with everything she's saying, and that's like, does anyone want to comment on that?
Oh yes, yes. I love these. I love the fake Sasha, fake Anne, both of them. It's just they're so unsettling. They just don't move. They stand there. Marcy comes up to hug them, and they just stand there, and their eyes are black at the top and then just sort of fade to grey at the bottom, and you sit there going, yeah, these are real people, aren't they, Marcy? Yes, yes, totally. And then they just teleport. I'm sitting there going,
I don't think Marcy
I love
would
it,
have
I love it.
believed in them if she wasn't like trying to, if she didn't want to. I mean, I think she wanted to
Yeah, for
sustain the
sure.
fantasy for a bit longer.
And
I love their costumes and
Oh yeah.
and being Link and Sasha being Edelgard. That was great.
Do you like your outfit? Suddenly, instantly changes with, like, no. Just as a surprise, everyone changes clothes.
I saw
Also, all three are color coded.
I do think it's interesting how much effort the core is putting into Marcy. Like, the core seems to really want to try to integrate Marcy into it itself.
maybe because like it'd be easier to control the bot, but they seem to have like complete control. But yeah, they're still going through all this effort.
Putting a lot of effort into
Yeah.
Marcy.
Well, we don't know how much
I'd say it's probably got something to do with prophecy and calamity stones, and the fact that she is connected to that, so therefore she is kind of
Yeah,
desirable to
it's
integrate.
something along those lines. It's like, it's not a problem that I have. It's just very interesting to me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
someone I
Because
saw
they
a
could have
comment.
just locked her in a box.
They could have. I mean, that's what they. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, they could have just locked her in a box.
I guess because
But they
the core is
they
strong.
didn't.
I guess the core is stronger if everyone inside its head is in agreement, rather than just having like a bunch of voices just like off to the side and just taking up
Yeah.
headspace.
Yeah, that's what I was
Maybe.
thinking. Like, it was more like, if you're gonna be a part of the core, you have to agree with it. Like, you can't there can't be one random voice that's like, nah, we shouldn't do it. Everyone's gotta be all in for it. Like, there can't be just one that just doesn't do anything. So that's why I think, like, yeah, so that's pretty much it.
I
And
mean,
that,
So it's literally
that's my thing though. Is like, they could have just not integrated her, but for whatever reason, the core really wanted Marcy to be part of that system,
I
and
mean,
yeah.
the original like reason that it chose Marcy over Andrias, other than maybe like it having conflicted feelings on if Andrias would ever be able to like get over his friends and stuff, is that it thought she was the smartest mind available to them, and I think that's why they wanted her to be a part of the core. They wanted another smart mind.
and just to comment on the outfits, like I know Anne was dressed up as Link and Sasha was some like Fire Emblems character, I think, but I saw a comment where how Anne was dressed up as a character that kind of just like listens to what everyone has to say and just helps them out, and then the other one was like some sort of like controlling character.
Yeah, Edelgard's an emperor, so like,
Oh,
yeah, that checks out very well with, so they both fit very well. Sorry if I interrupted.
no, that's good. I needed, like, I wanted to know like what that character was like, and I think
Yeah,
Marcy's dressed
Edelgard's
up
very
as
controlling.
Marcy's dressed up as Frodo.
Might be. I think it's Frodo. I mean, it kind of makes
Maybe.
sense because of the Lord of the Rings XP that we saw her watching in a flashback last episode.
Right. Okay. And
But I
anyone
I
here-
don't know.
Does anyone here know enough about Lord of the Rings to draw parallels other than like colors?
No.
Like,
The outfit doesn't really look
I
that much like Frodo.
And-
I mean, it looks a bit. It's got some similar clothing pieces, but it's not. It doesn't feel obvious like the Link one is.
the only link I can make is that
Yeah,
like
no.
Frodo was kind of like susceptible to like to the people around him, maybe. And like that's the only kind of connection I can make
Also-
with Marcy.
Well, I mean, this is not about like thematic parallels. This
Oh,
is
it's just
stuff in
costume. Oh,
Marcy's
okay.
head. Yeah, this is just stuff in Marcy's head.
Also, the braid is not on Frodo at all.
No,
The braid
yeah, the
round-
braid especially.
That's just a huge no then.
Okay.
So it doesn't fit.
Yeah,
Braid just looks cool.
there might I don't know,
It
there might be another
does.
JRPG that I just don't know that is based off of.
And I think we can go back to the. We can start talking about the Sasha Grimes stuff. I think at this point in the episode, they infiltrated the castle again via Joe Sparrow. They eventually encounter a bunch of cloak bots. We get the return of Cloakbot, and like Yunnan and Olivia will hold them off while they continue on into the generator to shut down this force field. And I'm just happy we got to see. Like, I know everyone like loved Cloakbot, and so just seeing it come back was fun.
Glad we got Cloakbot back.
For sure.
I could never replace him.
Well,
I missed the boy.
it's not the same boy, but there's more of him now. That
Yeah.
they get killed off screen, but
R.I.P. Cloakbot, my favorite season 3A villain.
like I'm guessing like I was gonna say Olivia, but Olivia and Yunnan were able to take him out, but I guess because Olivia has a gun, it's easier to finish off. It's easier to finish them off, but
Guns do make it easier to kill people, in my experience.
yeah, and I'm guessing Andrias didn't put like a nuke in each of these guys since they're inside the castle.
I think you have to like specifically activate the self-destruct. I don't think it just happens.
Right, because yeah,
Also, the
Yeah, and
explosion.
it also seems like it might have been that specific bot as well.
because he had more personality.
was like large. That many self-destructed would have like destroyed half the castle and killed both of them.
Also because it was like a specifically designed to infiltrate Earth when they didn't want evidence or technology getting taken. It's that kind of self-destruct mechanism, which these ones don't really need to have a use for because the invasion's here.
Oh, and it happened in one of these transitions between the mindscape and the Sasha scenes. But I really liked how when in the Marcy's fantasy world where it pans up and you see like the two moons. And I know Pickle, I think you brought this up about Earth and Amphibia, but it kind of reminded me of like Sasha and Anne, just because one was blue, the other one was pink. I just love the transition to like the Cloakbot eyes back into that scene. Oh, and Chuck posted the twin sons of Tatooine. And for any like Star Wars Rebels fans, it's like the twin moons on Lithol, but yeah, it's just me geeking out.
There's
you're
just
not
a lot
the
of
only
nerd
Rebels fan.
references.
Nice. Oh, go ahead, PC.
There's just a lot of nerd references.
Of course, yeah. Like that's to be expected, especially with like this crew, and then also with like Marcy has to be like they have to dial it up even more.
I can just imagine all of the cores, like various nudes sitting in like a movie theater with a bunch of popcorns, watching all of Marcy's memories and just consuming like 500 hours of nerdy content.
I mean, we know that they were super excited to have new memories, like with the ube cupcake stuff.
Yeah, and
Well,
it went
that
through
was
all of its
more,
movies
like,
as well.
Finally getting back to experiencing human stuff.
You can tell they liked it though by the just calling themselves Darcy specifically. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah, like they took that name specifically from Marcy's. They love
And
Marcy.
also, like they remembered, like they were extremely excited about the ube cupcakes, like before they even ate them.
Like I guess they could experience like Marcy's like how she was feeling at the time, like that sugar rush.
Like they definitely made it kind of notable that they said, "Hey, we still have some of the base mannerisms and base tastes, that kind of thing." So I
Yeah.
don't think that's readable into anything more than, hey, they've still got like base, not personality parts of Marcy, but like that's when they have the clumsiness as well. So
Yeah, but for the Sasha and Grime mission, like they split up from Una and Olivia. They get into the generator room, and that's when we get the.
I guess one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention one little thing. I am kind of a little like because Olivia and Yunan, they go with Sasha and Grime, and you know Sasha and Grime do their thing and they're great. But I am kind of sad because like Olivia and Yunan kind of, if I remember correctly, we never cut back to them ever, right? Like as soon as that point happens, they're like gone, right?
Yeah, they have their little
We get them
moment.
at the end.
they show up later, but yeah.
Yeah, at the end. But like, other than that, like, they're kind of like just out the story, which I don't know. I think some people would be okay with that. I was a little like, I wanted a little something from not anything like super big that like Sasha and Grime get. You know what I mean? But it is a shame they're kind of just out the story a little bit. Once like, yeah, it is a little bit of a shame.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded a bit more screen time for them.
I'm just
like show them fighting in sync without the collars.
Yeah, just a little something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just personally offended that they're able to justify their poster status with so little screen time compared to Wally. Like they're on two posters. What have they done compared to Wally? Okay, sorry.
They're gonna have something in the epilogue.
That's the sad thing, isn't it? Right?
But yeah, like I guess we can start to get into the
nitty gritty.
I'm debating whether or not we should probably cover the Sasha and the Sasha Darcy Grime fight before we get into the Andrias Ann fight. But
yeah,
let's go, boys.
Yeah, like
are we gonna be talking about it in pieces or like just as a general whole?
I feel like
I think just one and then the other.
Yeah, it might be better just to talk about a majority of the Sasha Grime fight first. Like, there's not much to talk about, like, fighting. Just, like, the animation's really great, and...
Well, I have some stuff to talk about fighting.
Yeah, like, then there's that moment. we'll get to that as well, but... Yeah, just a lot of great stuff. I guess Impact, what are your brief thoughts on the Sasha Darcy stuff?
So, oh man. So, as soon as like one of the fears I had with we already have Andrias as a villain, right? Like, why does it like I already kind of felt like Andrias was already like a good big bad for the show. And one of the things that scared me a little bit was like, we have to do Andrias and the core. Like, how is that gonna work? Are they gonna work at the same time? I never like considered like, oh shit, wait a minute, like the core isn't Anne's villain, the core is Sasha's villain. Oh shit! And as soon as that like the promo came out, it was like it worked so well too, because both characters are kind of like, how would I call it? The toxic influence to their other like friend, right? The core is that toxic influence for Andrias. Sasha was to Anne, and this is like a conflict of change throughout the story because Sasha's not that person anymore, and Darcy's someone who actively like plays against that a lot, right? Who kind of keeps reminding Sasha of who she was previously, and this is kind of like Sasha to finally have that second temple moment, right? That one time where she realizes, yo, I'm not that person. And the Darcy fight is all about that. It's brutal, it's big, and it was such a cool confrontation. I never thought about it. Darcy and Sasha makes perfect sense to combat each other. So this fight was awesome, and we'll get more when we keep talking about it. But yeah, this was like beautiful. Great.
Yeah, thank you, Beck. That was like a great way to start things off, like the core being Sasha's villain in this, like, yeah. And like I'm assuming Inbalbretta boarded all this stuff because man, like I just like the animation where Darcy pulls out the scythe that just it's like the
That's
frame
a
rate.
really cool scythe.
Yeah, like
That's
the
a really
frame
cool
rate bumps
scythe.
up like and
Tenfold.
yeah. And I guess
I was hoping we'd get that halberd back, but Scythe is badass.
Scythes are always top tier weapons to me, so
Okay, scythes are only top tier if they're animated well, and they're
doesn't
wielded
matter.
in a cool way.
I think in
I-
general,
I think you can do it very. Like you have to pull it off. But if you could pull it off, they could be very, very cool for like the lone wolf types.
Okay, they definitely pulled it off here. I just the animation of like the blade and all the spinning,
yes.
so good.
Yeah. I like the color they used for the scythe too. It's a really good color.
oh yeah, just like part of the theme,
It
the
does
course
its whole
theme.
thing with the black and orange.
Yeah.
And it makes the
Not this-
scene like where they clash like so much cooler. Like it looks like something out of like a game. Like, it was sick.
Oh yeah, like that moment where like yeah, like they have that shot of like them like yeah clashing weapons and
Yeah.
uh
The lighting and everything.
Yeah, I love the power shot.
Sticks. What are your thoughts on the Sasha Darcy fight?
My God, I have too many thoughts on it. Man, I just can't wrap my head around it because I was just screaming the whole time. Specifically when like Darcy started twirling around the scythe, it just looked so good. It was just so good. Everything about it.
Okay, so it was boarded by I think Eddie West. Yeah, that was a great job with it, and I guess we can talk about the moment where
The moment.
I mean, we're all just kind of waiting for it.
Let's go ahead.
I mean,
Let's spew it out.
there were a lot of big moments. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, but we all know what we're talking about.
like
Yeah.
remember how it's like so True Colors gave us like the Marcy impalement thing, and, you know, we got like a lot of Amphibia fans got a little like bloodthirsty and like a bunch of sharks
They
in the
did.
like a bunch of sharks like
Sadistic people.
a bunch of sharks in the tank like circling the poor show like slowly lowering itself into the tank, and then like this was the moment when Grime like goes in for Sasha to save Sasha, and then you just see like the slash the arm just like flops to the ground in front of them. Like that was that
The red background and the silhouette. Really good. Really good. Like holy bat batshit crazy moment, but that shot alone is so
Yeah.
good.
It was
Oh,
fantastic.
it's oh gosh, the callback to Reunion as well. The same kind of framing of like silhouettes on black red. But honestly, I'm gonna be honest. This is not what I think of when I think of the moment of the Darcy vs Sasha fight.
Really?
That's the funny thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
There's-
think the
that's fair.
final
That's fair.
moment is like
Yeah.
the moment, and that's actually kind of crazy.
Well, are we
because
okay? Are we talking
this
about the
is
final moment of
beautiful.
the fight, or the final moment before Anne and Andrias' final moment?
Wait,
I'm talking
before
about
we
the,
move
the
on.
moment when Sasha makes her big stand, but that's later on, and I don't
Oh,
want to
okay,
talk about
okay.
that
So
yet.
Yeah,
I
There's
say
something
that
else
that's
to talk
later
about
on.
first.
That's later
Like,
on.
I won't lie. I won't lie. The fight was long over before then.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't count that as part
Yeah.
of the fight because Sasha got her ass kicked and the fight was done.
The fight's never over till it's the
But
end. I'll have you know.
have you guys seen? You know what the scene with the black and red in the armor really reminded me of Ruby. If you've seen that show, there's a very similar scene in which a character
I
jumps
was
in
gonna
front of
say,
another one that gets their arm
I
cut
was
off
gonna
on
say
a
Reunion.
flashback thing.
I was gonna say Reunion because we had that similar red background with the silhouettes, the black
But yeah,
silhouette.
within the show, it definitely reminds me of that.
Mhm.
I mean,
I got-
black silhouettes on a red background is not exactly the most original of, choreography. But
Yeah.
I like to imagine that this was a specific call out to Reunion,
Mhm.
as this does feel like a full circle for Grime and Sasha's arc.
And then I like how.
I gotta say, like,
Oh no, go ahead,
I
Impact.
was. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, even like before Grime gets like slashed in the arm, it was like Sasha already got like slashed in the leg. I'm like, holy shit, okay.
This is
like,
I think this is the most. I think this episode had the most violent fights Amphibia's ever had.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was
Absolutely.
brutal. Like Sasha and Grime got their kicked in this episode. Like
They got
got
thrashed.
yeah, like that was like fuck. And it's like when Sasha falls down, I'm like, oh damn, we slashed her leg. Okay, I mean, there's a certain point when Amphibia's finales get to break the rules a little bit, where I'm like, okay, maybe there might be a little something, like a scar. I don't expect them to do a stab again, but something crazy. So like, I don't know, that whole point where like Sasha falls down and Darcy's about to hit her, I scared the hell out of me. I was like, I'm gonna happen at this point. That whole thing for the arm thing, and then once it did happen, it was like it was great. Not for Grime, obviously.
Well, no.
Obviously,
I mean, Grime's gonna get a cool robot arm out of it, so I think he comes out ahead. Really.
Makes them look cooler.
maybe Polly will make it. Polly will make it.
He will. She will.
And we do get that emotional kind of like talk between Grime and Sasha about how much like he's changed because of her, which is really a really great scene between them.
It's almost like that's a recurring theme.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it, again, a bit on the nose, but yeah, the theme of making Amphibia a better place is really well established, and followed through here.
Yeah, and then like Sasha gets her like rage boost to go against Darcy again.
So I'll be honest. For a sec, I thought Marcy was going to get stabbed again.
Yeah, I did too.
Wow.
I really thought that too. Like
I was like, for a sec, I thought, all right, well, time for number 2.
yeah, like
Bit
the thing
lower
is,
this
Sasha
time.
was a little conflicted, like in the beginning of the end too, to save Marcy, and she's already pissed that Grime could be dead. We didn't know yet or not. I thought they actually could.
I was never worried. if they cut off the arm, I'm not worried. If a limb gets cut off, I'm not worried about death.
Yeah, that's what I was
because
thinking too. Like they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They would.
If it was
Also-
like if it was a kill shot, it would have like gone like through center of mass.
Oh,
That's fair.
Also, Darcy explicitly says disarmed and not kind of bled out or anything like that. There's
Oh
a
my
bad,
God.
there's a bad disarmament joke, that kind of thing. It makes
And
it.
the
I mean,
The
laugh.
show kind of subtly says, "Yeah, this is a. Don't worry, he's not dead."
He's fine.
And the
Although
laugh.
although I'll admit, if I was Darcy, I would have made that joke too. It's a good joke.
I mean, sure, but also it's a joke that gets you Barbarian Sasha raging at you, and I don't think you want that.
Oh my God.
It's so
Yeah, Darcy
mean.
was
You just, like-
scared. Darcy
Yeah,
was scared the whole time. Like,
Oh, yeah.
she was backing the hell up. Like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, Darcy was on the back foot for a few seconds, and then she started bleeding Mountain Dew.
Not the might and now.
and yeah, she like immediately went to kind of like bandage the wound with her cape, like,
Mhm.
and like that's what everyone like.
Covering it up for SMP.
Yeah. And I guess how far should we go through the Sasha Darcy fight before going to Anne? I think we have that.
Let's
The
just go until
think
the
we can-
Yeah,
until the like
yeah, we got the part where like
Yeah.
the core.
Until the back moment.
Yeah, like the
the back moment.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
core kind of. Sorry, not the core. Darcy does like that projection thing with Anne and Marcy just like saying her name. But
I like how they brought the projectors back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that felt really good.
Yeah, then like she gets her back slashed, and you can see like the red
Jesus
mark.
Christ.
But
Fucked right up.
like apparently she was like fine later. So
Yeah, that was. Huh.
That was a
She's
long
just
dash.
shrugging everything off.
Look, it was a long but shallow
cut.
It was a long but shallow wound.
Mm.
If it was
Yeah,
deep,
you-
it's
you-
another story.
You
I hope
see
they
the
bring it up
wound.
next
Instantly
episode,
cauterized. It's yeah, because it's like a flame blade. It's not bleeding out or anything like that, so she's not
That's
in danger of being
still like a
Also-
third-degree burn.
It still hurt like hell.
Also, we just
On her
know that
entire
the girls are built different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is protagonist powers as well.
Yeah.
But actually, though, I hope they bring it up next episode. It seems too easy to. It doesn't seem. It's like they like severely injured her. They can't just forget about it.
Hopefully the calamity
Yeah,
powers
like-
just
like-
heal everything up.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm hoping that
I mean-
too, because I mean, I feel like because the point of the scar is to show that Sasha, right? That was the whole point of the backslash, and you see it a little bit like again when like after this point, it's hard to see because her hair's in the way, but like it's visible in a few shots.
Hold on. We
But, like-
yeah, no, I think it'll probably it might get like addressed momentarily, like someone's patching her up.
I
But
hope we get something.
I'm not expecting a whole lot more to happen with it.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
was-
I don't want Sasha like fully like crippled by this incident. I really wouldn't want anything like that. I just kind of want like, yeah, something like where some like maybe Grime patched it up or one of the planters help her out. I don't know.
It's very much the anime style thing where once the battle is over, the wound is fine. Like the wound is livable with. Like you can just be fine with it. But like in the battle, it's really bad.
I think
Yeah.
we can go on to the before we get into the Anne versus Andrias fight. I think we should just cover the last bit of the mindscape scene. Does anyone have any like
Yeah.
quick
I-
final thoughts
I-
on?
Do kind of.
Oh, go ahead, Sunsfury.
Alright, yeah, I do Yeah, I do kind of want to point out because, like, the Sasha versus Darcy fight does kind of work on a similar thematic level as and the Andrias, because the core is, and we get shown to be, especially a bit later on, a really big control freak, and kind of represents that unchecked want for power and control and mastery over everything that kind of, in some way, exemplifies what Sasha is trying not
Sasha.
to be right now.
Or-
So,
It's
like,
a
Darcy,
really
so, like,
decent.
Hook,
It's a really
it's
good
a really
parallel
good
between the two.
parallel, yeah, because I like that. I also, of course, anytime Darcy shows up, you have to talk about just how she does not move like a human should. And
Oh yeah.
it's beautiful and unsettling, and there's moments like at the beginning when she's getting ready to fight, she cracks her neck, but instead of like slightly cracking it like a normal person, it just goes like 90-degree angle, move scythe, alright, let's go. I'm totally in a normal position for fighting. And each moment, like when she's cracking up over the disarmament joke, she's like bent in 3 different directions that a normal person doesn't ever try to do. Like, it's theoretically possible, but nobody would want to do that kind of thing. And
Darcy
it just
Darcy
keeps
is
on going.
no, yeah, I agree completely.
And then in the big old fight in the just before she goes into uh the projection mode, we also see her just crouch in sort of a very odd, almost frog-like crouch stance. Also, that just kind of doubles down on this. All right, we get it. You're not a normal person. Don't mind the bleeding green goo as well.
All
But
right.
yes,
No,
I love the thematic parallels of this fight.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sunsfury. Like, I'm sorry, guys. We gotta. We'll move
Oh,
on to
okay.
the final bit of the mindscape where Marcy Marcy starts to have flashes from True Colors and realizes that none of this is real. None of this is right, and she kind of rejects the core's influence, and that unfortunately leaves her. Even though she's like kind of freed herself from its influence, she's just like in limbo until she can be
yeah,
rescued.
I know that people have like some problem with Marcy not like freeing herself from the core's influence, but honestly, I friggin' love this because it's just so simple. Marcy like realizing what's going on and rejecting escapism and finally being the one thing that she was afraid of, being alone.
And I do think it helps that like there's no one out. Like she did this on her own. She didn't need help from like Sasha or Marcy like getting to her head. She got there on her own.
Yeah, it shows that Marcy has changed.
Mm, I do love that. And also, gosh, that final scene is terrifying when it's just Marcy in her school uniform, just going off into the distance, and just that she just has to trust Sasha and to pull her out from this.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's a short scene, but it's so good.
and then like the moment where she kind of rejects everything, like Aldrich is just like you little pest, like how long we spent doing
Oh my
all of this, like he's like, oh man, like the rest of the guys are upstairs like doing all this cool invading shit, and I have to be stuck with my adopted grandkid like babysitting. Uh,
I really do like how it shows how Aldrich and the core as a whole really does view relationships as purely transactional. Like Aldrich gives Marcy her fantasy world, and in exchange, she joins the core. And we see that. We see how Aldrich viewed his relationship with Andrias as transactional as well. But it's just reinforced here.
Yeah, and that's been a recurring theme in Amphibia too, with people viewing relationships as transactional and then getting surprised when that's not how it works and kind of learning about it.
Yeah, and there's a nice moment where like I just love how like Marcy's just like this isn't what they like, just the way she talks about how Anne and Sasha wouldn't be interested in this stuff, and like it's just so like I feel so poor Marcy.
Yeah,
Why?
she went
This
through
is
the
why she-
most.
Yeah, this is why she needs to make new friends.
Yep.
So she can have
Oh,
people who would be like this for her.
God. In a way, I can kind of relate to her too, because me being a nerd, like people didn't really care about my interests, but got more outspoken and found people who,
Yeah, and I like
have
how
the same interest.
yeah, I like how like the moment she like shines like the photo like some like
That was a bit weird to be
yeah,
honest.
I
That
know
was a bit odd.
yeah, it was a bit odd,
That was
but then
weird.
I kind of made up for it when like it kind of like that light kind of illuminated what Aldrich really was, and then you see like the core eyes again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I
it.
loved the glowing picture the whole way through. Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's a bit on the nose, but like the photo like representing the truth and revealing Aldrich for the monster that he's become was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Amphibia. We get to be on the nose. Like that's
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah, they do not hide their themes.
Yeah, especially in this episode, like we'll talk about the Andrews fight. Like, I guess are we any final thoughts for Marcy's mindscape? I know we talked about her like being alone in the end, and that was all.
Pain. Pain.
Yeah, pain.
Yeah.
And
Painphibia.
I'll admit. Okay. So I loved the whole scene. Like the many-eyed Aldrich just looked kind of goofy to me. People were like, "Oh my god, it's so horrifying," and I'm like, he's got like a little bubble wrap on his face.
I guess when we first saw it with Andrews, it freaked me out. But then, like seeing it here, it's like once Marcy kind of rejected the like escapism, then like Aldrich just like became like an old like funny looking Palpatine guy, where he's like, "No, if you go out there, they're all gonna hate you," whatever. But like he was less threatening. He was more goofy. I think.
He was, and I mean, honestly, I'm okay
Yeah, I
with
was fine with
showing
that.
just how I like showing just how pathetic Aldrich is. Man throws a temper tantrum when he doesn't get what he wants, which will be relevant later.
Yeah, and then Marcy also like slaps his hand aside too, and it's like he gets more pathetic. Like the more like confident
it's great
Marcy
how-
gets.
I really do I like showing these fun ultra evil villains that they're kind of pathetic. It like you don't get like
As
the
soon
same
as
kind.
people reject them,
Yeah.
they just lost the power.
Yeah, I kind of love that.
Yeah, and I guess we'll move on from the mindscape stuff, and it's time to get like I think we were gonna go into the Anne versus Andreas stuff, like just the build, just the setup for this. So I didn't mention this earlier, but we get that quick thing of like the Boon Choi parents like fighting with the high tech government weapons. That was nice, and like Andreas like drops down onto the battlefield once again. This time it's with the Dilophosaurus like
Yeah,
armor, and
Diplosaur, something like that.
Diplosaurus. It's based on an actual like extinct amphibian. And
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I posted it in like in the podcast prep channel, but like yeah, like especially the head design and
Yeah, that wedge-shaped head with the kind of
Nice.
axolotl style gills.
yeah. And
Very arrowhead-like.
yeah, so Andrias drops down. He challenges. Oh, he makes the primates joke again, and he challenges Anne on a one-on-one duel, and he blows up Hollywood as a show of force if Anne refuses, which is. I'm glad the Hollywood got dunked on again. I don't want to call it like a callback.
Well,
It's
it's
just like a
fine.
funny thing.
Pop-Up's career is in shambles.
Oh no. Also, I will say, I'm sure that the death battle people are going to be glad to have a real-life landmark to compare that explosion to.
Oh right, because like before it
Oh
was like
yeah, that's
total.
right.
So I'm sure that's going to give people a lot of stuff to work with.
Like calculate
Not
like
really relevant,
like the
but
the length of that hill and whatever. And
yeah, because that's a real life landmark. We finally have something we can measure that to.
yeah,
I will
so
say, in the setup for this rematch, I love how even now Amphibia doesn't lose its sense of humor.
yeah, yeah, like I just love how Andrews just dropped down like in his like in dramatic fashion and yeah, the Hollywood joke and yeah, I think those were the last two jokes
The
for
news
this.
segments.
Oh,
What-
go ahead.
Oh,
There's the
I
news
was thinking-
segment saying robot leader speaks.
And I was thinking like the Maggie cameo and the
Yeah, that was
principal
so cool.
cameo. The principal was so
Maggie.
funny.
Maggie.
Oh my god, the
The great one.
like because
Maggie.
for those of you
Maggie.
for those of you who don't know, like after season 1, Maggie became like this weird like joke character and
Phenomenon.
popularity like and I'm guessing because it was this happened back in season 1, I'm guessing like the crew was able to like bring her back in because there's no way they wouldn't have done that if people like were like raving about her. And I think she's voiced by the voice director Eden Regal. Yeah. So Andrews challenges her to the one-on-one, and then we get that moment of Anne just like looking at the "Who am I" paper, and the planners are behind her. It's like I'll gush about this when I when I get the chance. I'll let you guys talk about it. Like, I guess Six. What are your thoughts on Anne's decision to go into the fight? Okay, Six isn't there. I guess Pickle. How are you feeling about this?
I know we've already talked about the animation, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for this fight. Or I guess the animation really steps up later in the fight,
Oh,
but it's
I'm talking
already
about
great
oh
here.
Pickle. I'm talking about even before the fight, just like Anne's like moment of like self-reflection.
I guess I don't know. I like that it works well for Anne to be fighting Andrias and having a reflection because Andrias and Anne have always been sort of dark reflections. With Andrias kind of being the bad path if you never recover from your friends being bad to you, if you just like let the hate stew in you, and if you like let yourself get pushed around by someone, and then Anne's getting ready to fight this person who's kind of like the like the embodiment of the worst case scenario of who she used to be, and like as well as like coming to terms with who she is now and being is knowing who she is compared to how she used to be, where it was just kind of like I'm whoever my friends want me to be.
Yeah, and it also kind of plays into like how she mentioned she took like the the easy way, regardless of whether it was right or wrong, and how all of that changed after she met the Plantars.
And Brenna really sold that whole message. Just really good job with that. She
Her
did a really good job.
performance, top
Tier,
notch.
top tier, right? God. The whole cast in this whole episode
Yeah.
was top
God,
notch.
all right.
Amazing.
Do we want to talk about Keith's performance?
Not yet.
I already did.
Not- I kind of stopped. I stopped Pickle
I think
midway.
we gotta wait.
I stopped Pixels midway when he was talking about, because like we need to get to like
Yeah.
the moment to talk about it. And
Okay.
I will say that, like, oh my God, the build up before Anne gets to the building is the hypest shit ever, bro. Like,
So
she calls
hype.
Domino 2 down.
Okay.
She jumps jumps off of her superhero landing, dusts herself off. It says like, "You rang." Ah, goddamn. That was
Yeah, let's go.
I was yelling.
Oh,
bro,
so
that
good.
part. The music.
Marcy would be proud of Anne's sense of dramatic timing.
Oh my god.
I will.
On top of all of that,
God,
they
sorry.
just using, like, oh, sorry. You go, Prince.
Okay, I love how this episode, like, it brought the parallels between Anne and Andrias so far to the forefront. And I really loved this. Are we going to talk about like the shit talking, or we're just talking just the build up right
just
now?
the build up. We haven't even reached the
Okay.
Yeah.
fight yet.
Okay, I'll hold off on the shit talking then.
But like we get Andrias with his like, you know, the boss battle, gives his like little speech before the fight begins, and like he's talking about how like he always underestimated Anne, and we hear about the disheveled hair and the one shoe. And I love how much respect Andrias gives Anne in this scene.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, I'm going to talk about this later, but in this moment, Andrias is treating Anne as like his equal.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like,
and I don't think he's done that with anyone. Like, since, you know, the incident.
and even like the core is like his superior. He doesn't consider himself equal to that. But like Anne is like Anne is his rival, and it's like I love how like we didn't even get Andrias until season 2, but like seeing him and Anne, it's like together, like about to have the rematch. It's just so like
It feels like the whole show has been building up to this point, bro.
It feels so right. It just feels so correct on like a gut level. Like, yes, this is how this ends.
Okay, two things I've got to sneak in while we have the time in this segment. I love how they just use the natural quote-unquote natural geography of the city by just putting this whole event on top of the biggest skyscraper there is, and using that as the natural like podium staging grounds to have it super high up and really exemplify everything. It just sets the scene in such a natural way that it feels almost unreal. Also a little cheekier thing, but especially when he's doing the speech and he's moving the robot around, I do appreciate the fact that they're using like classic anime robo moving sounds like that you get from like some of the classic stuff out there whenever Andrias's robot moves. I love it.
And you learn so much about Andrias as a person from the fact that he's requesting this duel in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need to. He had an army of robots and the giant robot suit. I forget what it's called.
the
He could have just
Diplosaurs.
blitzed her, but he didn't. He could have just winged in there with an army and taken her out and dragged her back to the core. But this was personal to him.
Yeah. Basically, let me see what you got from this far. See who's the better person, basically.
Yeah.
And the dialogue between both of them are really good.
Yeah, like Anne mentions,
Yeah,
from
like,
Santa
the
Claus to
whole-
supervillain.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah.
that line was so good.
The shit talk was so good between these two.
Roast battle, Amphibia. Let's go.
and just the fact
Beautiful. It was
only
perf-
one way
perfect.
to find
Especially, does it happen now or later when she says, "Honestly, I pity you"?
Later.
That's later.
Yeah,
That's later.
and-
we'll
Darn.
get there.
And even when Andrias says, like, he's like, I understand why the gems chose you as their champion. It's like, yeah, like,
See, that line. I mean, I understand why they didn't, but that line almost made me wish again that Andrias and his friends did get gem powers, because that would be so cool if like the gem, he lost those and now he's talking to Anne, who has them now.
yeah, like that, in that kind of scenario, it would also be like super like fulfilling. And
But regardless, just this was so good.
yeah, and then I guess we can talk about the fight. Like, Anne powers up and just like tries to go for the hit, and just she's pretty much on the defensive for quite a bit. And
She held her ground.
She really underestimated Andrias there and the robot. I
Yeah.
feel like she just goes in full guns blazing and gets punted because she didn't expect to be able to be fought on an equal footing.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
that's
we're
never
at
happened
this-
before. She's never had like a challenge with being Super Anne. Every single time she went for it, like, she instantly solved the problem. Last time kicked Andrias's like ass. So like, this is the few times to actually get an equal footing. Yeah.
Also, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Anne's a little impulsive sometimes.
yeah,
Also,
And
fair.
plus, she knows that she's on a time limit. Like,
How long is the
I
time
think
limit? Do we know?
we do not know. It seems to be
The time
vibe
limit is as the
based.
plot demands.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
the
think-
time.
I think
assumed
it's
that like the time limit was like a thing that like it depended on how much control Anne had of the power. It was a little weird because like I didn't think there was a time limit of it before this point. Was that ever implied, or am I just bugging?
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was
we
in
had-
the very
had-
first
yeah.
appearance.
Yeah.
Okay,
True
Yeah.
color.
I guess
In
I
True
just kind of
Colours.
thought of it as like Anne just didn't have enough control over it to handle it as like a super long amount of time. That's the vibe I got out of it. Like there wasn't specifically a time limit. Like
I mean, I
if
think
that
that's
makes sense.
still the case. I think
I think it's a mix of
yeah.
the
I don't
control
think it's
and the fact that she isn't fully connected.
yeah.
Okay,
I don't think it's a case of Andrias knows that you can only have the powers for 10 minutes. I think it's a case of
yeah.
Andrias knows that using the powers is incredibly tiring, and Anne can only keep going for so long before she succumbs to just sheer exhaustion.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess I just kind of thought of it because Andrea specifically mentioned time limit. I just start getting logical from that point. I'm like,
Yeah,
I mean, like 10 minutes, 20. Like,
I don't think there's like an explicit time limit. I think it's entirely just
Yeah,
Anne
yeah.
getting worn out.
Okay.
yeah,
got
and
it.
yeah. The
Yeah, and
semantic.
very
even after
curious.
the time limit goes up, we see her use it as well. We like short bursts that don't have the kick behind it, and then she tries charging up again. So it's fairly vague.
Okay,
kind of
gotcha.
intentionally.
Yeah, I guess we can go like a little bit further. Like, yeah, Anne's on the defensive for a bit. Then she kind of starts like I'm just double checking. Yeah, Anne just starts shit talking Anne about like everything she loves will eventually be just like will be destroyed or whatever. And then that's when Anne starts shit talking back. And it's just like Like PCA, I know you wanted to talk about this.
I mean, I think this is the perfect, and this is kind of basic, but it really does show the dichotomy between nihilism and optimism. Like, Andrias is so. I mean, I'm not going to get too far into it because I'm not in a psychology lecture at the moment, but Andrias's shit talking just demonstrates how incredibly damaged he is as an individual.
Oh yeah.
He genuinely sees no point in trying to maintain relationships. Partly, well, no, entirely because of the choices that he's made with his life, especially since, well, he has extended his life, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and
I think it also fits really well into the whole concept of the core as well, because we see Andrias, we see his dad, whose name I've forgotten for a second, really play up the fact that the core is something that lasts, and that is the pinnacle of civilization, to build something that exists, and so you can exist for far, far longer. And this rejection of nature that plays very heavily into just the
Yeah.
kind of subtler themes of Amphibia, which is definitely has bits of environmentalism versus like rampant abuse of nature kind of thing going on there.
It also just demonstrates an innate fear of things ending. Like Andrew and like you said, Aldrich saying like this is what lasts, because Aldrich is terrified of things changing.
Yeah,
The
that's
core
it. That's it. Change. It's change versus fear of change.
Exactly.
Bingo.
And changes for the better, and Andrias is too scared to change.
All about accepting a change, basically.
I mean, that's what the whole show is about. That's why
Right.
that's why this is set, like Matt has talked about, the theme that things change as you grow up is why it's set in a frog world, because frogs change as they grow up.
Look what happened with Polly. She changed.
Yeah,
with her.
she
grew
changed.
up. She grew up.
And I
she
guess
had her
She
legs.
grew up.
and I guess
That's the whole. It's the white hot burning core of the show. Shit changes, and that's okay.
yeah, and we'll get that message later on as well. But yeah, like back with the shit talking, like yeah, Anne kind of talks about like the 1,000 years of that Anne just was basically burying his feelings, and she also like we get to see her like call back Tritonio's sword or her sword, and she does like a power up on it.
That was
So cool.
That was
When-
so anime.
Like a Jedi using the Force.
Oh,
And when did you get that?
anime.
I mean, I'm glad you have it, but when could you do that?
Like we kind of see that with like projecting her powers in a way with the avocado, where she like cut it in half. Like
Kinda.
and we see her like repelling people during the Three Armies.
I don't think the details of her powers matter that much as much as like it
Yeah.
looks cool.
rule of cool.
Yeah,
they
I
do
think-
cool shit.
I-
That's her powers.
I think- Yeah, Anne's powers are also vibe based.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, one thing I love about the shit talk between Anne and Andrews is that, like, keep in mind, Anne doesn't really have the information like that we know about Andrias and the King and Olivia and Yunan and all that other. I love that Anne just reads them like so quickly. She knows exactly what is going through Andrias's head, like in an instant, because they're parallels, right? Like
Yeah.
they're
Anne
mirrors,
reads
and
him like
it's so good.
Anne reads him like a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it kind of like gets to his ego a little bit, and just starts getting a little pissed and just punches her in the face. Like I love that. Like I love that we get the villain hero talk where our characters kind of like fight each other, not like mano a mano, but also like not just mano, but also like philosophy wise too. this is something I've been like.
It's
like,
a it's a battle of ideologies.
Yes, exactly, and it's just I've been wanting this since True Colors, and we haven't had Anne really have that like philosophy talk with a villain like ever. We've had like Mr. X kind of put her down a little bit in Escape to Amphibia, and Cloakbot's like a robot, so. But like, we've never had like, it's so good like that Anne can just like poke at Andrias like that, and Andrias isn't really getting that much on Anne besides, you know what I mean? Like Anne is fully secure. She knows who she is. She knows what she wants, and like Andrias can't say shit to like make her feel bad. Nah,
that's because Andrias is profoundly insecure. He doesn't know who he is. He wants to know who he is. He desperately wants to be sure of himself. But he is a profoundly damaged person.
He's scared to know who he is. He's scared of change. He's very
resistant to it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would even dare say that he once knew who he was, but then completely lost that sense of self after, Leif took the box and everything around him essentially crumbled.
Oh,
and that's why
he
that's
buried
why
his heart, man.
Issues.
He buried his heart.
Yeah. Andrias losing his sense of self becomes very literal later on.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess like eventually like Anne just kind of knocks Anne down, and then that's when Mr. X uses like taxpayer money to like show off all the boom boxes.
Good old taxpayers.
Like, and starts playing that
Blackpink.
Yeah, Blackpink song, and like
I don't know the band. I was on social media.
Yeah, like,
so
and then like
I'm
like the
not
whole
K-pop guy.
crowd starts like cheering for her. And we get that like moment where Anne like gets empowered again.
I love that scene. I love that scene when she was like face down, and all of a sudden that blue wave pops up, and she's back in her Super Saiyan form. That was so awesome.
And even before that blue flame,
It
when
was
she like
just
does
0 to
that,
100.
she does that like little grin.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
I love it.
This animation.
I never thought I'd get hyped about K-pop, but here we are.
Yeah,
no,
neither
for
did
real,
I.
right? No, that's
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That
Change.
song slaps.
It does.
It comes kind of out of the
Yes.
blue, kind of, and then you realize, hold on, this is Amphibia. We have so many moments where, like, okay, one of the big reasons I think this works quite as well as it does is because in the beginning of the end, we also have a music-based power-up. That just kind of reminds us that, hey, this is kind of just like that thing that happens. We get our rule of cool power-up moments where the music starts blaring and everyone starts beating each up to the beat. And then we have it here in Orlean, and it feels so good. And everyone's chanting behind Anne, and we go into power mode.
At some point.
Oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure at some point, Matt said like after it was like the sit down and think interview, I think, but I might be wrong, so correct me if I am. Matt said like, "Oh, Reunion was quite a bit of money. I don't think we'll ever be able to do something like that again." I guess he got it.
He did.
And I'm thankful for it. I mean, I'm not personally a K-pop fan, but it just worked in that scene.
It fit. It really fit.
I want to know who chose that song. I want to know who in the crew listens to K-pop.
And thank them for choosing this song.
Yes, and thank them. No, this is not a call out post. I want to know who.
Yeah, and then like while Anne is in that like in the middle of like beating up Andrias, like we get that transition to Sasha fighting Darcy. That was nice.
It's so perfect.
We didn't really get a chance.
So cool.
That transition.
We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but the way the two fights were intercut was stellar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because like every single time, like they made sure the framing was always kind of we jumped back and forth. It was great. Like even when like Anne is kind of like on the ground and she can't get up, then Sasha gets pushed onto the ground too. it's great. So there's always like each of the fights are going at the same tempo where like yeah, it's great. The way they like snap between them is beautiful.
Whoever did the fight choreography deserves a goddamn medal.
Yeah, like
deserved.
Across the entire show, like anyone who worked on Amphibia fight choreography, they all get medals because
I mean,
Yeah.
some
Really.
fights are some fights are better than others. But this
And that's saying
this
something.
fight, like I've said before that the best choreographed fight is the reunion fight with Sasha. This blows it out of the water.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that fight kind of blows a lot of fights we've seen out of the water. Even like
The
True
reunion-
Colors. Even the True Colors fight was like really good to me, but like after seeing that fight specifically, it just
Mhm.
kicked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, these people deserve a raise, like a real big raise, a
Yeah,
big
like
raise.
new deal for
New deal
animation.
for animation.
Yeah,
But
right.
Same
Agreed.
thought.
yeah.
Same hat.
yes, like Anne has Andrias down, but then like unfortunately her powers start like timing out, and then like Andrias immediately goes for like tries to take her down again, and like I'm trying to think of a better transition, but then like we get the man of the hour. We get Sprig finding out about the letter, like what's on the letter because of Mr. X's glasses. So he just
Hey, little man,
yeah
drop it. Oh,
yeah, he like Sprig like just like grabs Mr. X's glasses, gets on a heron that he made his bitch earlier, like it just immediately flies up to rescue his friend, like, and
Andrias yeets a heron.
oh yeah, he really did.
I was literally
that's-
thinking it like
That's
the moment
exactly what I
before.
wrote in my notes.
He
He just yeets it.
He's a hair.
I was like watching the heron flap, and I was like, it'd be so funny if he just grabbed it and threw it, and then he did.
Also, just a side note, God, I wish we got more Mr. X and Sprig interaction because they
Yeah.
legit play off each other so well.
yeah, it's so
It's
great.
a buddy cop. It's a buddy cop type of thing.
It is.
kind
It's
of a buddy
total.
cop vibe.
It's secret agent and alien buddy cop vibes. I love it.
Yeah, like Sprig, Sprig once again is like standing. Like, it's David versus Goliath. And like he launches a boom shroom just to like distract him for a second, but like the moment Andrias is about to like pound both of them, like Sprig just pulls out that letter, shouts out he has a message from Leif, and then you just
Flashback.
oh my, like you just can tell when the mech freezes up, like Andrias is hearing that name after centuries for the first time.
Oh,
After 1,000 years.
Yeah, and he just freezes. It's so good. Also, this is the second time that Sprig has saved the day by yelling at the bad guy on top of a tower. I just realized.
Thanks,
my
Sprig. Very
God.
cool.
It's like poetry.
Yeah,
It
he
rhymes.
launches something at their
Yeah.
face too before giving the speech.
And yeah, he launches something at their face with a slingshot and then yells at the bad guy.
We're
So,
just
like-
gonna summarize the letter, right? We're not gonna
Like,
read
I'm not gonna
it.
read.
Nah.
Like, I'm not gonna read it word for word. But yeah, like, I mean, I wish I could, but like for time's sake. But
Time.
like,
time
we
crunch.
get that.
Yeah.
We get that montage of Leif recalling like her life basically after putting the box on Earth. How she set up her new life in Wartwood, met people, like met someone else, had kids, had a
was so
family, had a
heartwarming.
life, but always thought about Anderson
Changed her
Barrel.
name.
Yeah, she
changed her name to
to
Lily.
Lily, I think.
Yeah, Lily Planner.
And
God.
how she always thought about Andrias and Barrel and the times they had, and I think And like when Sprig finishes reading that letter, and we also got to see Leif like build the planner home, and it's a nice callback
That
to
was
when Marcy mentioned that the house was like 2nd century. Like it all fits, and
Yeah.
and then like the letter flies like a leaf into Andrews's hand. I think
Yeah.
Andrews I think Andrews kind of goes and grabs it too,
Who booed?
and like now we can gush about Keith David's delivery and his performance. Like Pixels, I know.
This
Oh
was
my
such-
I'll let
god.
Pixels. You go
Keith
first.
David.
all right,
He's
all right,
from.
all right.
Sorry, PC. Sorry, my
No, go
guy.
for it. You've been waiting patiently for hours.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Keith David's probably one of my top VAs right as of now because of that performance. He has that tone that really sells it to you. Like I forgot he was a giraffe. He was in Rick and Morty. He was
Yeah, the
like a
president.
little
Yeah,
yeah, and it's like it kind of shows the difference of tone that he can take. I mean, just the delivery and everything. Just keep like from the beginning, we can see like he like you give him a script, he'll sell the hell out of it. Like no matter how the scene is, how the emotions are, it's just top tier. We saw true colors and like we saw how great he was with that. But when we saw an all in, like just I kind of shedded a tear to be honest because of that performance because it was so good. He Keith David, I know you're not watching, but who knows? Whatever. You were a really great VA, like one of the best. I hope you continue to do more voice acting in the near future because it's just stuff like this just makes me happy to be a fan of animation. So
yeah. Like
yeah,
it helps that Keith David. I think his background was in theater before
I'm
getting into
tearing up
acting.
already.
And
Christ.
oh man, like
Ah,
I guess PC. I know you wanted to talk too. Just like
go ahead, PC.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm just gonna do the same thing and just praise Keith David. The man will, the man will put his all into whatever performance he will devote himself to giving the best goddamn performance he can, even for a funny frog show.
yeah, and
Like that's it. I'm otherwise I just keep talking about how awesome he is the entire time.
and because like you're used to Keith David. Like he's like the man of authority, and like
Mhm.
very articulate with his words. So like hearing him like kind of stutter in that delivery when he's thinking about Leave, it just like makes that performance even like more tragic and like brilliant and all those other words. And then he just like breaks down like crying too. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. I I mean I don't I yeah, I have no words. I just have no words. I never thought that I would hear Keith David sound absolutely destroyed like that.
yeah, Sprig absolutely destroyed Andreas.
With
Yeah.
fact and logic. Sorry.
He was in a lot of Disney stuff too. He was in the Princess and the Frog, Star and the Forces of Evil,
Yeah, Keith David like he's like
on
in
DuckTales.
He is
Gargoyles.
one yeah.
Really Gargoyles?
Yeah, he voices
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Goliath. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah, he is
That's
the
right. Wasn't that,
I
like-
gargoyle.
realized he was
I
a
mean, like-
Spawn in Mortal Kombat 11, which is
yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah. Keith David's in a lot of stuff. Like he's known for a lot
He's
of
in,
roles.
he's in a lot of stuff.
And
I'm
He's
pretty
one
sure
of the
that
greats.
Keith David being in Gargoyles was part of why Matt cast him. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
it was.
Matt was like a Gargoyles fan and like talked to Keith David about it.
I believe like Matt said to Keith, like, I'm a huge fan of gargoyles, and Keith just looked at Matt and said, me too.
And I think
Yeah,
Matt described
that-
it like as like a twinkle in his eye. Matt was like super like romanticizing
You're the
like that
chosen
moment
one.
with Keith David.
You're the
Matt
Oh.
meeting
chosen
his
one.
idol.
God.
The man just has so much devotion to whichever role he gets. Like-
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and then especially like when he's just like when he says like he's that Leif's too late for the things he's done. It's just oof, like
That hurt. That hurt.
Oh my
I know I'm backtracking just a little bit, but I feel like it's so important. The delivery came from none other than like gender swapped Leaf. Sprig just being his like just added to it.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah. Alright,
Okay.
let's continue.
Yeah, and then yeah, so then Andrias is crying on the ground, and then like we can get back to the
that
to-
scene.
the scene with Darcy and Sasha where like Darcy was about to deliver like the killing blow, but then they get distracted by Andrias crying, and then they like the core is so pissed. They're like Aldrich, your son's being a cuck. Like get this under control.
Don't be a bitch. He really
Oh my
did,
God.
Yeah, he really said that.
That was a direct quote.
Can't believe they got that past S&P.
I can't believe Matt got Disney to let them say Andrias is a little piss boy cuck on live television.
Gonna cry? Piss your
I believe
pants,
the
baby?
exact quote was, "Hey, you little piss baby."
Yeah, but like I like how the core kind of like separates itself in that moment just to kind of like yell at Aldrich. Because before it was
Like,
always like
Aldrich-
we and we. Like then in this moment it's like it's calling
Yeah.
it's calling names.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like Aldrich, like, I have a feeling the core was already shit talking Aldrich for what Andrias did. Like after the box was taken, that like it just proves its point. Like Andrias is just this fucking screw up, and like they just keep blaming Aldrich for like not raising him well. Like,
Yeah, it demonstrates how toxic the core really is,
Oh my
like as a
God.
concept.
Yeah, and then it starts doing some sort of like not mind control, just like mind pain.
like some force thing. It felt.
Yeah,
But
I
the-
wasn't entirely sure what was going on, to be honest.
Yeah, neither was I.
I thought it was just trying to take control of like if Andrias disobeys the core, it just like make him in pain. I guess that seems like the idea until it gets back. It's like a
Was it just torturing him? Is that? Was
yeah, I
that
think
it?
they're just torturing his
yeah,
soul
like-
until
that's the idea.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
I think it was just straight torture. Which also ties back in, which is the big one of the core being an absolute control freak that's going on. That they have these contingencies going in there, like as the big manipulator, which makes the next moments by Sasha all the better.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's what Grime kicks the sword to Sasha, then she goes and cuts the cord. She unplugs the gamer's PC.
No. That's an
when
expensive
oh, man.
PC.
when your PC gets unplugged before you can save.
Don't you hate when that happens?
whole moment. I was
God,
gonna
it's the
say
worst.
that whole moment of like Sasha getting back up. I was yelling the whole time for it back up. Like like you hear like Anne's like little like whatever it's called. You know what I mean.
It's
Anne
not who
talking,
you.
like,
It's not who you were. It's who you are now.
yes. Oh my god, Sasha starts
Yeah.
getting up. It was so
It's a
good
great-
in the core.
And that
beautiful.
Anime
scream.
moment.
And
That
I think it's a great demonstration that it's never too late for anybody to change. Like even now, after all this, Sasha is still trying to be better.
Yeah,
And
and like
also-
the you go, Sunsfury.
We also have a great shot that doubles up on the back before when we had the black on red. We now have black on white here, which when things are going, when we have that clean cut moment, but this time it's good, and this time it's triumphant. This time we're standing up to the core, and this time Sasha is not that person anymore. And it's a nice.
yeah.
It feels so different to like the reunion shot and to the earlier Grime injury, but it's similar in a lot of ways. I love the parallels there between the shots. I just love the silhouette shots we get.
Oh yeah.
So many parallel shots and themes between this episode and past episodes. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's just so good that Sasha, like, the end of her arc is her beating some toxic, power hungry manipulator. Like that,
Yeah.
it's, oh my god, it's so satisfying. It feels like, yeah, it just feels like, I don't even have the words. It's that good. Like, beautiful.
It is just like the ultimate representation of what you want Sasha to end up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Change.
It's
Change.
Sasha fully
Change.
believing that she is a different person. She's
a changed
finally
person.
got that second. Yeah, she finally
She-
got that second temple moment where she
She-
truly
she-
believes she's a different person. It's
She's not just a different person. She is her best person. She is her
Yes.
best self in this
Yes.
moment.
yes,
Yep, and then yeah, she frees Darcy from the core. She defeats Darcy, and we get that shot, that like 360 shot of like Darcy shutting down basically, and
Yeah.
Before we get that 360 shot, though, we finally have Darcy getting one of the iconic Amphibia face moments.
oh, like the close up,
Just like the
thing?
shock. Yeah, the close-up shot where
The
like
hatching.
the eyes just go wild.
Yeah.
There's also her like when Sasha slashes at her, she gets so scared that she's been cut, and she's like, "Oh, you missed, ha!"
Yeah, she's like padding
Because
around,
she wasn't, like,
trying to
still
find the.
panicking.
Yeah, then she like kind of just like shuts down and just like lays back, and like the helmet kind of just like slips off, and we get that mode of like Sasha trying to like wake up Marcy, and like meanwhile like that's happening, like Anne has enough time to like power up again, pretty much goes for the killing blow, and
Kill shot.
yeah, for the kill shot. And that's when Anne just like thinks about Leif's words again, and then like he just like he has that little smile and just opens himself up again, like literally. Like, quick minor note, like between
Symbolism.
between like the flashback and the present day, Anne just went from like no armor to all like a bunch of armor. Kind of see why later on. And it's like he's added like another suit around him, like a suit of armor to protect him, and like here he's just like removing all that, like all those that shell around him, and just that
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys can probably talk about it well, like, oh man, like just Andrus's look and Anne noticing it is just
So
and realizing what's happening, like at the last second.
Yeah, and having that reaction really makes you go, wait, oh no, wait, is this actually going to go through? Is she actually just going to kill him? Like, is she just going to go straight through him?
I talked about this, but like I think she pulled to the right a little bit at the last second.
Definitely
Really?
did. Yeah.
I think if she wanted to kill him, then she could have. I think she pulled away just a little bit at the last second.
Yeah, right after Andrias directly looked at her with that knowing look.
Yeah, no. I like Anne's reaction, and then the fact that she just kind of grazed his right side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look for a photo right now and see better.
Okay,
if
we
it's
just went back through it.
important.
She doesn't move in the episode. She just goes on a straight line.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
in a
but we're
noticeable
seeing
way,
it.
at
We're
least.
seeing
Like,
it. We're
like,
seeing it perpendicular to us, though.
but that was a side
yeah,
view. But that was
absolutely.
a side
It
Yeah,
could have been
yeah.
it could have been jiggled along, but there wasn't a direct "this is what is happening" kind of moment.
No, but all I'm saying is that, like, from an objective point of view, if Anne wanted to hit center mass or the head, she could have.
She would have, yes.
But even in this moment, she's still Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, God, this is just so goddamn tragic what happens to Andrias. Like, he sees this as his only way to make the suffering stop. He just wants it all to end. And Anne is giving him a way out.
There's
My God.
there's like
Andrias
something
gave up.
He did.
there's something strangely beautiful about his, I mean, for lack of a better term, his suicide, that just kind of accepts his fate, accepts that he was wrong, and he knows there's no way that he can just get back his friends anymore. There's no way for him to undo and like go with Leif. So
Right.
just
Well,
kind of dies with honor.
Do
If
you,
nothing
I mean,
else.
what, yeah, I mean, what happened is that Andrias came to the conclusion that the world is better off without him.
I think this was definitely like the thing that, because I think Andrias' redemption has been something that's been talked about in the fandom for a little while, right? And I was always a little like against it. I was like, depends on how they do it. Like, I wouldn't want
Yeah,
them
do
to
it
like,
right. They had to do
yeah,
it
I
right.
think this was how they did it. They did it really
Yeah.
well. Like, they made sure that like no character like goes like, oh, we forgive you, Andrias. Nah, there's none of that shit. Like,
Also,
it's
Lightning
they did it
McQueen.
really well.
We all know there was a Pepper Anna cameo, but there was also a Lightning McQueen cameo as well.
There was.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Don't you?
Yes.
What?
It was so funny.
I forgot
Yeah.
the scene. Do you remember the scene?
I remember
Kinda,
seeing it, but I don't know where.
I don't remember. I think was it in the
Yeah.
puzzle room?
believe so.
There was a lot of random. There was a lot of references in the puzzle room.
Oh, in the parking lot. In the parking lot where
Oh, okay.
and yeah, like Lightning McQueen, Ka-chow guy. It's like wow. Oh my god. It's just all right. So the we should talk about what happens next then.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Andrias is a cyborg.
He's
Like,
Terminator.
Yeah,
I mean,
that sounded like, honest to God, the Andrias cyborg thing sounds like a cracked theory on Amphibia.
it does.
Yes.
like
If you had like told me that turns out Andrias is a cyborg, I'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Yo, shut up, man. You don't know what you're talking
I feel like
about.
someone made a like called that. Someone
Someone on
crazy
Reddit.
on Amphibia
Someone on
lore.
Reddit. Someone on Reddit says that
I swear to God.
as a joke.
Anyway, I
Crazy.
kind of love it though, because it's just a demonstration of how Andrias
Change.
is like he's given up he's lost his sense of self, his, for lack of a better word, humanity, in order to try to serve the core and make up for his perceived mistake.
Yeah, and I think the thing that always got me was like, I thought the Leviathan just lived that. I thought we were never gonna get an explanation for that kind of ever in this show, and then we just that one scene. It's like, Jesus Christ! Like, Anne's reaction to that was the same reaction I had. Like,
I thought like he just lived a long time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also like, I feel like it's a clever. I mean, I know there's more to it, of course, but it's also a clever way of allowing us to get this scene of him being like broken up in pieces on the floor without being totally non-PG, is to have him be cyborg.
And looking at the and looking at the photo, she did kind of make a quick right at the last moment.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's just because of how the perspective was. Like, it kind of made us think, "Oh shit, she really did that." But then no, Like she had like
Anne is Anne.
yeah. So we're talking
Um,
about the cyborg part now, Thon.
Yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah.
You guys
just
covered.
Terminator.
Did you guys cover most of it? Like
Mm.
the symbolism.
The symbol.
Which symbolism?
Just like
Symbolism.
Andrias losing himself in order to
Oh
get his goal.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Great.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So then I like
Good
how
guy,
it's like
you dude.
I like how his mind is immediately on Marcy now that he's like quote unquote free from the core. It's like he can finally like focus on stuff that like mattered more to him.
Make amends, probably. Or but too late
Or
for
if
that.
not make amends, at least do something right with however much time he has left.
To say, oh
It seemed like
hey,
he
I
just wanted
fucked
Marcy
up.
to be
Here's
okay.
what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. I mean, like Anne said, it's not who we are. It's not who we were. It's what we do in the moment.
Yes.
And in the moment, Andrias cares about Marcy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then like this is the point where we get the I guess we can talk about the trio reunion. They all go up to the castle again, and we get. I think after a season, the girls are back together again.
Oh yeah. Full
It
It's
looks
been
like
finally-
we're
so
all
long.
finally back together again.
And we
Girl.
finally, after all this time, get Sasha and Anne forgiving Marcy.
I've been
Yeah.
waiting for them to all just like hug and cry forever.
My God.
It's so satisfying. Like think.
Yeah, because in not reunion, in True Colors, like everyone had a different agenda. Here, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's over.
Yeah.
It's finally over.
Had different plans. Yeah.
It's finally over. We won, everybody.
Yeah,
Sure, there's no loose plot threads here.
Yeah,
Right,
thank
fucking
God.
Jesus
Thank.
Christ.
yeah, and
It
like
sure would suck if there were any loose threads that needed to be tied up.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we get that moment where like they talk about how like things will still change, but the memories they had will still be there, and I'll let you guys like talk a little bit about the trio if you want before I get into the Sprig moment, but um
Okay, I do really like the full quote here. Nothing, not distance or time, can break the bond that we share, because nothing can take away the memories of the time that we spent together.
yeah, it's
Is that a
sweet
quote from
Anne.
Leif?
That's
Oh,
a
from
quote
Anne.
from Anne.
Okay.
From Anne. And it's beautiful. And also, Marcy is
Beautiful.
absolutely leaving
Very
town.
beautiful.
Marcy is leaving
Yeah.
town.
Like she
She's
said.
not going to be
Yeah,
allowed to
for
stay.
sure.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. And people
She's accepting
are like,
change.
nah.
No,
But
like
of
Just
course
because
she's
they're all
I
in
mean,
denial.
PC, I'm not sure
it's
what
too
circles
hard.
you've been in, but like we've all been pretty like
No, not you guys. Y'all can see the writing on the wall. I'm not talking about you.
We had a feeling already, and we saw like a lot of fan art of it. Of
It's
like
just the
Marcy. I did see this one fan art of like Marcy coming back home, but the house
There's
she lived
been-
on was like foreclosed. That means
There-
like the parents moved on.
God, yeah,
without her.
that was fucked up.
If
There's
that
been
happens, my mental health will go off the
There's
chart.
been a weird amount of discourse about Sasha or Marcy staying in Amphibia. And I'm
PC.
like-
PC. We're not gonna give time for that. That's not worth
I'm
it.
sorry. It's just I'm so glad how obvious the show's making it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that quick moment where it's like, can you tell our parents we're okay? Yeah, sure thing. Boom, back to Amphibia.
God.
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Like, we'll see. And
It was
All
fun.
right.
like,
And then
Do you
that's
guys-
where the episode ends, I think.
Okay,
I think that's the end.
do you guys want to
Uh-huh.
cover? Do you guys want to mention?
Uh-huh.
Do you guys want to mention anything else about the trio before we go forward? Because I know, like, I just don't want to.
Pretty much covered everything
Okay.
about the trio.
And then we
stuff.
get that last little moment of like when Anne gives that like nice quote. Sprig is like off in the distance, and like
glum. In a
Or
way.
Sprig.
yeah, and
Or Sprig.
yeah, like poor Sprig, and yeah, they all take the castle back to Newtopia, not Newtopia, back to Amphibia, and Polly drove.
A photo.
And before that, even
Molly
like
drove, of course.
when they do that group hug, like we see the core like get a pair of like legs and like spiders off away, and
Scuttle away.
Yeah.
yeah, like, and I
Reminds
want,
me of Jimmy Neutron.
I'm not sure like what you're referencing, but like I kind of don't want to talk too much about. Oh, go ahead, PC.
Yeah. No, I think I know what you're talking about with the Jimmy Neutron. Continue. I think I remember which bit you're talking about.
Okay.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I don't want to speculate about the core because like we'll find out next week what it's up to and focus on this episode, and they like Polly drives the castle back, and we cut back to the battlefield. They're still fighting those like whatever Frobots were left there
God.
to fight the resistance, and
That was a cool photo. That was like a cool shot.
Yeah,
of,
like-
all
It
three.
was.
yeah, like they're all exhausted.
cool.
They've been fighting all night, I guess.
Yeah, they've been fighting. They have been just fighting the good fight for hours.
Yeah, but luckily, like the castle shows up and they announce that they defeated Andrias and Darcy. And I wish we saw what happened with the Frobots. Like, did they just stop when they said the battle's over? But minor nitpick.
I'm not sure.
But
We just kind of leave them alone.
Maybe since
Bro.
they're in the castle, like you could, like, since we have control of the castle, there's probably a way to destruct or something.
yeah, maybe we'll find out next
Yeah.
episode. But
Like a big old shutdown button.
Yeah.
yeah, and then we have that conversation about like we get that little mention of the prophecy. Marcy geeks out. And Sprig has
Prophecy?
Sprig has that conversation with Anne about will things change between us two, and that's a sweet thing, and they'll face it
That
together.
word again.
And then Sprig notices the moon's getting closer.
Ah, fuck.
And
Everything is fine.
Everything's
It's all
fine,
good.
right, guys? No
It's all
big
good, don't worry about it.
deal. It's no big
No
deal.
big deal.
So in case you hadn't noticed, in case anybody didn't notice, the fact of the matter is, All In isn't actually the last episode. We've still got some more to go, and
I don't
Yeah.
think that's right. That sounds fake.
We still have like over a normal episode. We still have got more time than True Colors left.
29 minutes. Like,
Yeah, we do. Which
29.
there is so much that's gonna happen.
And we saw like
So-
2 promos. We saw 2 promos of it.
yeah, and like
We're not gonna talk about it.
yeah, we were.
it's about like
it's
5
like
seconds of content.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I guess
We could talk for like another hour about those promos, but I know we're
Yeah.
not.
How do they manage to like show us so much in so little time?
I mean that's what we thought about True
One-
Colors. And-
Yeah. Like we're not happen.
One thing I really do like is that we've basically just closed off all of the key emotional arcs of the show in
Yeah.
All In, which means
not
that
all
we
of
get
them.
to see
Well,
almost. I said all. Which means that we get to see in the next episode, The Hardest Thing, everybody working together at peak performance for a full
Yeah.
episode,
That
and
will
that's
be
going to be
nice.
awesome.
But there is still one pretty major emotional arc that needs closing.
Yep.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with parents.
I was thinking more about Sprig and Anne.
Yep. That's what I was thinking too.
And about
okay.
Peterson Jenner at the
Okay,
same
Yeah,
time.
I was
okay,
thinking that.
okay.
Ran against the world.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
like
enough.
but you know what? I am very fine with an entire episode being like devoted to the Sprig and Anne arc coming to a full close.
Yeah.
Because that's what this show has been about. Like when you get down to it.
And the planners.
And
the
the
planners.
planners.
I know, but especially with Sprig and Anne, like that's also
Especially.
that. And I guess for those of you who watched on TV, like they had the credits playing during that final scene. But if you watch this on a video on demand
Yeah.
service, there is like a special
Sucks.
credit scene where like you just have
Stupid
the moon
commercials.
getting a little bit closer by the end of the credits, and you have like a music box version of Ant's theme.
So eerie. I love
It's
it.
so
Yeah, I got-
creepy.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I like that special. I like the credits. Real good stuff and spooky.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I rushed a little bit at the end because I know most of the stuff we're thinking about is probably just going to be addressed next week immediately. I know speculation's like a little bit I know you guys love talking about that, but we got to go into like final
I get
thoughts.
I get it.
I guess starting with Sticks, like what are your final thoughts on All In?
Oh boy, I have so many. But more than anything, I would just like to mention something I didn't have the chance to. Um, Considering the decisions Marcy took earlier to basically kidnap the girls against their will and send them to Amphibia, and then accepting Andrias's proposal at the end of the day at the aquarium, it's true but terrifying to think that in a worse outcome of events, she may have accepted the course deal and just be assimilated, but she didn't because she's grown and everybody else has grown. And if True Colors was the darkest hour, this may just have been the beginning of like the absolute best of every character.
Thank you, Sticks. Yeah, that's great. Pixel's final thoughts.
Everything we talked about, it's really good. Change, like the whole point of this show is change, and All In just is the pinnacle of what this show's about. Has a lot of good pacing. Everything is just so good, and I can't wait for the hardest thing next week.
All right, thank you, Pixels. Pickle, final thoughts on All In?
It's still so fresh. I can't rate it yet in terms of other episodes, but I know this has got to be one of my favorites. It's just has I think like I feel like this show just like coming back and like getting all of that like sweet everything like happening the way we've been waiting for, and just like the animation was so visually beautiful, and the plot and the like emotional moments, they just were, this episode just like really took everything to its peak.
All right, thank you, Pickle. Sunsfury, final thoughts on All In?
All In basically defines will define everybody's perception of the show for the rest of time, because it is the moment where everything pops up and we get all of these spectacular conclusions to some of the core themes and core arcs, and they pulled it off incredibly well. And it was All In is make or break. If All In is like mediocre, the show just kind of feels bad to a certain degree. But All In was spectacular, and that makes everything else that's gone in the rest of the show that much better. I loved it. I loved that everything popped off.
Thank you, Sunsfury. PC, final thoughts on All In?
I'll admit, it is frankly shocking to me how every single season they managed to one up the last season finale. I didn't think they managed to do it, and yet they have continued to do it every single season. This might be peak Amphibia. It is everything that we've had built up over 3 seasons coming together in one big, glorious blowout. And the most shocking thing about all of it is that it isn't even over yet.
Thank you, PC. Impact, final thoughts on All In.
All In is this episode was like such a like I just love this episode. It was so big for the show. It did such a good job of kind of like dealing with everyone's arcs relatively well. It had the biggest and most brutal fights of the whole show. It felt like I was watching like a movie. I was like on like the edge of my seat the whole time. I was yelling. This episode will always be ingrained to me as one of the best moments I ever had, like watching anything. Like I will remember my first time watching it ever. I love All In. It's my favorite episode of Amphibia. Stop.
Thank you, Impact. And with that, we can pretty much wrap this week's recording. Thank you guys so much for coming on tonight. Next week we'll be covering
Jesus.
the hardest thing. The hardest thing.
Thank you, Thumb.
It's gonna be a hard watch.
What about
So-
me? What? Wait, did someone?
Huh?
Oh, okay. But yeah, like that's. Again, thanks for listening, and see you guys next week. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye,
goodbye.
everyone.
Bye.
See you
Hope you
Bye.
had fun.
Bye.
See ya.